So that was a big part of it, was sort of the iconography riddle. Like, that's one of my favorite parts of art history, is figuring out the iconography of things. So these narrative images that have a bunch of symbolism and iconography in them. What's the story it's telling me? And, like, I sort of just liked that by learning the stories of these different saints, I could approach all of these different artworks and decide, like, that those 4 women are Barbara, Margaret, Catherine, and Agnes because of the thing that they're holding. And something about that was, like, cool to me, right? That you can interpret these images the more you learn about those stories. I also, like, the more I have sort of grown into it, I like the Middle Ages because it's, like, weirder.
That's my friend, Dr. Bevin Butler. She is a professor of art history at Tennessee Tech with a passion for medieval art and mowing the yard.
So when I did my Florence, Italy trip, I proved to myself I can fly across the world and I can do this. I was terrified to get on that first plane. And then a couple years later, I'm actively loading up the moving truck and moving down to southern Georgia. You know, so, like, I would say make your own decisions, listen to your family, listen to your friends, but follow the things that you want to do. When I quit my job in Savannah after 3 years, which isn't that long at all in the teaching world, everybody told me not to do it. But I knew for some reason, I've done my research. I've looked at all the other opportunities. This is the thing that makes sense for me. I want to commit to this and I'm going to do it. And I'm going to bet on myself.
That's my friend, Dr. Jeremy Blair. He is a professor of art education at Tennessee Tech and a former band member of both the Perks and the Midwest Ballers. My name is Molly Perry, and I'm a graphic designer at Tennessee Tech University. I know lots of talented, funny, creative people, and on this podcast, we're going to be meeting a lot of them. Without further ado, this is episode 6 of Molly Made Friends. Before we begin today, I'd like to apologize for 2 things. 1, this episode is over 2 hours long. To the absolute soldiers who listen to every minute of my podcast, thank you and God bless you. I promise to try and keep them a little shorter in the future. Number 2, for some reason, my mic made me sound like I was standing in the corner of the room and whispering. I legitimately have no idea why I'm so quiet in this recording, but there you go. I'm so sorry, but please enjoy these 2 amazing friends who are married and who are my friends. Okay, thank you for joining me. I think that we should start off this podcast with a very important question. From the audience, actually, which comes from Instagram user Beezus.
Oh,
okay.
Why is Bevin so much cooler than Jeremy?
Oh, man, that's a very good question. Jeremy?
I can't even answer it. It's a mystery.
Because it's so true.
I was thinking the opposite.
I think it's her youth, her currentness as far as, like, pop culture.
Her congeniality.
The fact that she studies art history, which people generally find very cool.
Jeremy looks like he's holding a lot of stuff back right now.
Well, I was going to start agreeing, actually, like prom queen. You know, there are things that people don't even, like, they have met Bevin recently, you know, maybe the last few years, but really it started a long, long time ago. Like, even back when she was winning Student of the Month many times and wearing a t-shirt that had the periodic table of elements on it.
It's one of the best t-shirts I ever owned. It glowed in the dark.
Heck yeah.
And wearing her mom's wind pants.
I was also wearing my mom's wind pants in that picture, yeah.
So
and black and white saddle shoes from Payless.
So the coolness, to be honest, is from her being authentic to herself. So it started very early. And really that started with her dad. Her dad is, like, very authentic to himself.
You may look like your dad, but I think I am my dad.
Yeah.
In some disturbing
ways. I saw that
ways.
picture as I was, like, snooping for pictures to use for social media. I saw that picture of him in those, like, insane shorts.
The Texas shorts?
And that, like, skin-tight t-shirt.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
It was the 80s.
It was the 80s, and they lived in California.
Dang.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know.
And the coolness, I think, is rooted in the zero shame. So,
Oh, okay.
None.
just It doesn't even enter the brain to be ashamed of something.
If you wanted to try to embarrass me, you would have to try really hard. I don't know that you could. It might be impossible.
What about when you had a nosebleed and it blew up in your face?
That did happen, and most people would be horrifically embarrassed by that.
You just kept teaching.
I really wasn't embarrassed. Like, I found out, like, when I got to my car and there was blood all over my forehead, it stood out to me. But I did not actually feel embarrassed about it. I just was like, why would no one tell me I just had blood all over my face? Like, what do they think it is? Like, but shame wasn't the thing that came into the picture.
Speaking of having stuff on your face and no one telling you about it, I worked at the library at Rowan State Community College, and this lady came in. She was a photography professor and her student, and she asked, "Hey, can we take some pictures of you for this class?" And I said, "Sure you can."
Of course.
And so they gave me a book to put kind of in front of my face, and they kept saying, "You have such beautiful skin. You have such pretty skin." And I said, "Oh my God, thank you."
You're like, this is kickstarting your America's Next Top Model career right now.
And so they leave, and we had a great time, and I went to the bathroom, and I had Nutella from my morning waffle stuck on the side of my face. And I walked into the office, and I didn't even have to say anything. And the office lady said, "Oh, that's not a scar, is it? It's from your breakfast." I'm like, of course it's not a scar.
They just thought it was like a birthmark.
Yeah,
and they were
birthmark that they.
You're so brave that you like live out in this world with that birthmark.
Yeah, you have, and I'm thinking about this photography lady being like, "You have such gorgeous skin." She's probably never heard that before.
No, she's never. I'm gonna build up her confidence.
Yeah.
This freak of nature.
And so I emailed her and I said,
"Please don't use that if it has Nutella all over my face."
Yeah, don't use my Nutella pictures, please. But anyway, can you tell me who the heck you guys are?
Yeah, I am Bevin Butler.
I'm Jeremy Blair.
You're both doctors.
Yeah.
Yep,
what are you doctors of?
I am a doctor of art history.
And I'm a doctor of art education, which most people didn't know you could be, and I am.
It's true.
Really?
Yep. That's a very common comment I get is, there's a term called a terminal degree, which is like the highest degree you can get.
And then they put you down.
Oh, yeah. Most people, I thought you could only get a master's degree. I'm like, no, you can actually get a PhD as well. And then they look at me like, well, why? Why would you get that? And then I have to like explain it all to them, but oh well. But yeah, we're both doctors.
Doctor? Yeah.
Well, can you tell me a little bit about why you were interested in your degrees of study?
I can. So I think, I had always wanted to be a teacher, and then I started, I went through and got my bachelor's degree, and then I got my master's degree because I couldn't find a job. So I was looking for a job actively in Ohio. I could not find a job anywhere. I applied at lots of schools and couldn't find one. So I just said, I'll just go get my master's degree, I guess. That's why people go to grad school. Truly. It was just another option of how to spend my time, basically. And I did well in that program. And then I ended up getting a job, a full-time teaching job in Savannah, Georgia. And it happened to be just the exact right school that I was supposed to be at. I needed to have a lot of freedom and just be able to take some risks as a teacher and be able to teach things that maybe I didn't really know how to teach. But at this school, I was given the flexibility to kind of do whatever I wanted. And through going through that process of failing a lot and then learning through that failure and reteaching, I realized I want to know more about learning. I want to know more about teaching. I want to know more about the school system. I want to know more about why maybe people don't learn or why they don't want to learn. Like, I just wanted to learn everything about that stuff. And I realized, like, I probably am not going to learn that stuff teaching here. Yeah. I've discovered what I want to learn, but I'm not going to learn it necessarily. So then I applied a bunch of grad schools and other jobs, lots of opportunities. And then the University of North Texas offered me a scholarship that was really nice scholarship. I wasn't expecting a scholarship like that. And then I accepted and I moved to Texas in 2010. And like 2 weeks later after moving, I met Bevin.
Enter me.
Yeah.
Wow. Mm-hmm. And Bevin, why are you so interested in art history?
I actually didn't know that's what I wanted to do forever. Unlike Jeremy, who sort of grew up knowing he wanted to teach. I don't know that I often had an answer for like what are you going to be when you grow up? For a long time I was going to be a vet. Okay. Mostly inspired by love of Animal Planet.
Yeah.
Right. But actually, it turns out I don't like science like at all. So
who does?
I know. So it was my senior year of high school. I did a Saturday morning art program at the local university, which is Texas Tech, where I grew up. And because I liked my art class and my art teacher liked me, so he picked me to go do this thing, right? And a painter was there talking to us one weekend, and she was talking about having her work in galleries and what curators do. It was like the first time I'd ever heard the word curator, right? And I was like intrigued by that. Like, okay, so like a person could have an art gallery and engage with artists and the arts, but not necessarily be an artist.
Yeah.
I'm really not an artist, really, you know? But like, I like it. I think I'm creative, but like, I don't want to try to make a living as an artist. Yeah. I'm not good enough. And I asked her after that talk, like, what would a person major in to do this gallery curator thing? And she was like, I think art history. And I was like, okay, cool. And then I go to apply for colleges, and you have to select a major to be eligible for funding. Like, to get any sort of scholarship, you couldn't be undecided. Mm-hmm. And so I just picked art history because that one lady said that. Mm-hmm. And I was like, yeah, okay, I'll just get a degree in art history and I'll own an art gallery for like contemporary art, which is like lols now, right? Yeah. And so I went.
It'll be called Bevin's Galleries.
It'll be called Bevin's Galleries of Contemporary Arts. Mm-hmm. And so I show up at the University of North Texas for my undergraduate degree in art history. And the very first class I took was Survey 1, which is prehistoric art, cave paintings through medieval. And I was like on the edge of my seat. Mm-hmm. It was like a 300-person lecture hall. Like, my professor didn't know me from anybody else, you know. But I like filled an entire spiral of notes. Like, it was the best thing I'd ever done in my life. I just thought it was fascinating. And the longer so that just confirmed that I did the right major. But then the longer I was in school, the more I was just like, I just want to be in school forever. And like, I did a study abroad in undergrad that was led by the faculty member who was the medieval art historian. And my favorite thing I did, we went to London and Paris, and my favorite thing of all was the churches, going into the cathedrals and stuff. And I loved this professor, and I was just like, okay, I'm going to stay and do my master's with her and like focus on medieval stuff. And so I did. And when I started my master's, that's when Dr. Blair arrived on the scene. That's when we met. So he started his PhD the same time I started my master's. And so I did my master's, and then I moved to Arizona State to do my PhD. By that point, I had decided that I did not, in fact, want to own a contemporary art gallery. And then my next thought was to work in museums. Mm-hmm. But then even after that, I said, no, I want to be a professor, actually. I just want to stay in university forever. So then I went and worked on my PhD.
That's really cool.
Forever.
I love working in academia.
I do too.
Just being around it. It's just a nice environment. It's calm.
I like to hear the drum line, like in the fall, like at the beginning of fall semester, mm-hmm. when you hear like the marching band out practicing, and you're like, yes, this is college life. This is the cycle here. Yeah. I just wanted to be in school forever, and then I thought, and then I'll just transition to being on the teacher side of things. But no, I did not grow up knowing I wanted to teach at all. That was never really a consider. I never really wanted to be a teacher, actually.
Well, I remember, I don't remember who told me this, but I always thought that it was like a really great analogy because it makes it sound cool. Mm-hmm. But speaking of medieval things.
Love medieval.
I have always approached the degree system as kind of this apprentice becomes master type thing.
Very good. Love.
And I think this person described it to me as almost, you're this wandering peasant who takes up a trade.
Love that.
And you get kind of good at it. And then as you go on, you earn finally your doctorate and you become that like wizard in the tower.
Wow.
That knows
I thought we were going to become the master craftsman, but no, we've become a wizard now.
Wizard in a tower is think,
goals.
Yeah. What is it like working with other wizards in other towers? What is the community like among professors? Are you guys all cool besties, or are there like curmudgeons out there that kind of get stuck in their towers and don't want to come out?
Well, let me debunk the wizard concept.
Oh no, no debunking.
Okay,
I am
Bevin
a wizard.
Is a wizard.
Good. Yeah.
When I
would be too.
Jeremy's not.
When I went through my PhD process, I'll call it, there was a lot to it. I really viewed it to learn, not to be an expert in anything, but to be like this expert at asking questions.
Yeah.
And versus I don't know everything about art, but
I do.
But Bevin does, so it's convenient that we're married. But I want to be awesome at working with people that want to know a lot about art. Yeah. So I want to be a part of that process versus I'm the encyclopedia for art. Okay, so I'm not a wizard. I think art historians view themselves as wizards, probably.
We are
but
wizards.
Art educators.
I don't like the way he said we view ourselves as wizards, but that we are wizards. Yes. And we in our department pretty much are cool besties. I love our department. Yeah. I think we have a lot of really cool people, and we have a lot of fun when we get together. I have been at other universities and other departments where they are not all cool besties. Like there are some curmudgeon situations out there in the world. Wow. I think we're very fortunate in our own department, but yeah.
Do you guys have cool teacher hangouts?
Not as often as we should.
We do have a couple times a year where we'll meet up at a restaurant and hang out and talk about just normal life stuff,
or like some of us will go on hikes.
Yeah.
Every once in a while we'll go on like a hike, not like as a big group, but not as often as we should. Like we're all just busy, so by the time you get to just crash and hang out, you just crash and hang out kind of on your own.
And our department is split between 3 different buildings. We have the BFA building, Foundation Hall, and the Craft Center. So to just organically kind of hang out or connect doesn't happen as easily as maybe other departments, but we all get along very well. We ask each other lots of questions. We share resources.
I was on art tour just recently where we spent spring break in the Netherlands. And Rena Wood, our fibers professor, was my roommate while we were there.
She's an angel.
And
actually.
We were cool.
She's an angel human.
We were definitely cool besties on that trip. Like it was so much fun. And just to get to spend that much time together, and we like clockwork got the giggles every evening at a certain time. And it felt like being cool besties. It was a lot of fun.
To play off of what you were talking about earlier, Jeremy, see that transition I just did?
It's perfect.
Crazy.
About him not being a wizard, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that there are 2 kinds of professors. There's the kind that you describe where you almost see yourself as like a tool for your students to use.
A facilitator,
A facilitator of knowledge.
I like that.
And then there's this collector professor, a collector of knowledge, which maybe Bevin is more of a collector, just like
maybe
let me learn as much as I can.
Yeah.
Like this makes me think of Dr. Birdwell. He passed away, I think maybe a year and a half ago. He was my favorite history professor at Tech, and he taught my Tennessee Topics class, and to walk into his office was to insert yourself on a 1 foot by 1 foot square because there was no way to move in any other direction because he quite literally stacked books from the floor to the ceiling.
Oh, yeah.
And when he passed away, it was quite literally like like watching the burning of the Library of Alexandria.
Right.
It's like, that is a person that had so much gathered in their head.
Yeah.
And
true.
What was actually kind of sad and I think symbolic of that is they had a book sale this semester to raise money for the history club, and it was all of those books from his office. So I loaded up on all
I didn't know that's where those came from.
They
but
were all birdies.
I had a bunch of students showing me the books they bought there, and so I kind of like that grand dispersal of that knowledge, right? Like he imparted it into students over his whole career, and then his books sort of disperse in a similar kind of way.
Do you guys have any teachers or professors that you look up to or that you kind of want to model yourselves after?
I can go with that. Well, to transition off what you said, and then I'll answer your question too. Yeah.
Wow.
Is I guess you're helping me reflect a lot, and I'm a reflection person.
Whoa.
More, we're going down a road here. I teach a lot from my life experience versus this is what Andy Warhol's life is like. This is what Jackson Pollock's life is like. I'm just sharing what I've discovered through being a teacher for many years, and that is a driving force versus encyclopedic information about art. Yeah. Right. Then what was your question again?
It was about professors you've modeled yourself after. Yeah. You didn't even answer the question at all.
Can I go back? Sorry, I was self-serving, okay? Can I go back
0 out of 3 points
to like a childhood teacher?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So my favorite teacher of all time, and this is not to disparage any of my other awesome teachers.
Disclaimer out of the way.
Right, disclaimer out of the way. But Linda Fisher from Hamilton, Ohio. Okay. So when I was 8 years old, so my parents noticed when I was very young, like 3 and 4 years old, that I liked to draw and I had a talent at it. And then I was in just a really nice public school, but they wanted me to get even more arts education and not have to do the once a week art class at my elementary school. So they put me in these like private art lessons, which were held in the basement of a bank. And you could like rent out this basement for some fee.
That's kind of Mary Poppins-esque.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. And so this woman, Linda Fisher, who was an artist. So she was a local artist. So she was not a licensed educator. She was a local artist that had these after-school art classes. And she taught me like all the things that we teach in like Drawing 1 at Tech. Like charcoal on paper and drawing still lives and all these things. That's what I learned when I was 8. And we drew a cowboy boot. We drew this old school lantern from the early 1900s that had the big glass bulb on it, or glass globe on it, with reflections. And we were drawing with a cloth, with charcoal, and then we would erase with our retractable eraser. And this is at 8 years old.
Yeah.
So she really taught me that it really doesn't matter what age you are. You know, you could really achieve a lot of things in art. And then she taught me work ethic and all the different tools. Like I have my own toolbox. I have my own portfolio that had a zipper around it. And like all the other 8 and 9 year olds at my school were like doing hand turkeys.
You said get owned.
And I want you to like have the visual of how much Jeremy looked like Opie Taylor when he was a kid.
Horizontal stripe.
And so I want you to be picturing Opie Taylor like carrying around his little like zip up pad folio. Yeah, that's what you need to be picturing.
And this is why Bevin is cooler than me, because this is my origin.
That's true.
Carrying around the portfolio and everything.
I was so cool.
I know, you are way cooler than me. But that was my... That's the teacher I'm still trying to be, actually.
Yeah.
You know, in lots of different ways. So she's been very inspiring my whole career. And I haven't spoken to her since I graduated high school. So I've tried to look her up on Facebook. Maybe she'll hear through this podcast.
This is going to go viral.
And we can reunite. But she
then that'll go viral.
Yeah.
Truly a major reason why I committed to art. And then I had great teachers after that, but she was really the origin of why I really committed to being an artist as a young child.
That's cool.
I had lots of good teachers. I had lots and lots of good elementary school teachers that I am friends with on Facebook still. Isn't that bizarre? Isn't that weird? Yeah. I know. And I'm still just like, oh, Mrs. Rogers, Mrs. Johnson. Like, I'll never not call them that. You know, you can't ever transition into calling them by their first name. That's incredible. Weird.
I have teachers like that as well.
Yeah.
I can just, be back home in Rome County, and I'll be at the Cracker Barrel.
Yep.
And I'll see Mrs.
It's the grocery store.
Yeah.
It's the grocery store in Lubbock. You go to United, and you're definitely going to run into one of these people.
I'll see Miss Money, or,
Yeah, and my parents see him around.
And I haven't seen her in 7, 8 years, and they just know my first and last name, and they know everything about me.
We saw Miss Alexander at a Texas Tech basketball game, and she was like, "Oh my God, I saw on Facebook." Da, da, da. Like we just still you just don't miss a beat, right? So I had great teachers growing up, and a lot of my college professors have been very formative. The faculty member at UNT that went on our study abroad with us, Dr. Abel is her name. And being with her on that trip and going through those churches and then doing my master's with her, she became a very close mentor, not only in like research, art history stuff, but just sort of life. Like she took her research and her teaching very seriously, but she also took summers and travel and plants and hobbies very seriously, so that was important to sort of see that kind of balance. And I think a lot of my teaching style comes from just like my excitement about the things. Like I don't feel like I'm modeling necessarily, but like really and truly that first art history class I took, I was on like the edge of my seat.
Yeah.
Like it's not an exaggerate. Like it was like the most entertaining thing I'd ever done in my life. And so I think I just try to present the information in that same way because I still believe it's like the most interesting thing ever,
There's a lot to be said about a teacher who's just incredibly engaged.
I'm just excited about it. Like I'm enthusiastic about it because I like it and I think it's cool and I think you should think it's cool, and I do think it's relevant. I don't feel like I'm teaching some like outdated, boring thing, which is kind of the reputation art history can have,
Untrue.
I agree, but you know how people are out there.
And I think you're good at, air quotes, forcing your enthusiasm on certain students, and they come around.
Yeah.
And they do find a connection to it.
Nothing motivates me more than someone who seems like they don't care. Like someone who doesn't really fully want to engage with me on my like frenetic level of engagement is like, I am just going to come at you even harder. I am going to be so loud and pumped at you, and I'm going to just keep pouring it on until you eventually admit that was sort of all right. Yeah. I've been like that with difficult people my whole life. Like I'm just going to friend you even harder until you admit that we're friends.
You'll have that student come to you and be like, Dr. Butler, I was wrong. Like this wind chime that's made to look like a penis from ancient Rome.
It's so good.
Really cool.
It's like changing my life right now. And I'm like, I knew it would.
Yeah. So I know that you're very excited about medieval things.
Yeah, I am.
I love medieval times.
Yes.
I love medieval times
the
as
restaurant.
Well. Yes, the restaurant.
Yeah.
I've actually never been.
I haven't either, Molly. We should go.
It would be
We should
so
go together.
Fun.
We should go together.
Just a giant ass turkey leg.
We should go together. I've never done it.
Potato.
I know.
Or at least Dolly Stampede.
Does it have a medieval times?
It's not medieval.
Notice you said Dolly Stampede because she renamed it from Dixie.
Because I'm informed.
Yes,
oh.
you were.
Yeah, thank you.
Did you hear that from a podcast?
Yeah,
I think I heard it from a student, actually. But because I listen to my students.
Or a Reels.
That was an inside joke from earlier, guys. You had to be here.
Jeremy knows stupid stuff from all the stupid podcasts you listen to. There. Mm-hmm. Now you're in. Now you're in the club.
I want to know, do you enjoy the Middle Ages?
Yes.
For the same reasons that I do, which is that it kind of feels, in the scheme of recorded history,
sure,
the Middle Ages almost feels like humanity. Well, in Europe, the Middle Ages in Europe almost feels like humanity's middle school years. Where things are, like, kind of awkward.
Things were a little weird.
They have this very, like, cliquish mentality about things, very quick to anger, very quick to drama.
Okay. Like, ancient Rome and ancient Greece are, like, when you're a cute kid.
Yeah.
And then it's the Middle Ages, and you're, like... I was, like, really puffy in the Middle Ages. Like, my body wanted to have adult fat, but it didn't know where to go yet.
Yes.
And then by the time you get to high school, maybe you're back in the Renaissance and things are, like, getting better again.
Yeah, like, your acne is, like, you're learning how to deal with that.
Sure.
You're getting bullied a lot.
Yeah.
And, like, ancient Greece and Rome, maybe they were like me, where you were a quote-unquote gifted kid.
Oh, my God, so gifted.
You reached, like, 5th grade, and then they realized, oh, she can't actually do math.
Oh, she's not gifted.
And then
we were wrong.
And then I'm over here drawing, like, a rabbit with knife hands. Sure.
Or
something, I don't know.
I think that's not unfounded as, like, a narrative that you've crafted. One thing that I like about it, well, first of all, what got me into it, I think, mostly, was, like, the puzzleness of some of the images.
Yeah.
Right? So these narrative images that have a bunch of symbolism and iconography in them. What's the story it's telling me? And, like, I sort of just liked that by learning the stories of these different saints, I could approach all of these different artworks and decide, like, that those 4 women are Barbara, Margaret, Catherine, and Agnes because of the thing that they're holding. Mm-hmm. And something about that was, like, cool to me, right? That you can interpret these images the more you learn about those stories. So that was a big part of it, was sort of the iconography riddle. Like, that's one of my favorite parts of art history, is figuring out the iconography of things. And I also, like, the more I have sort of grown into it, I like the Middle Ages because it's, like, weirder, you know? And I think that's sort of what you're getting at, too. It's the awkward years, and because it's not as, like, I am bored by how, like, beautiful ancient Greek sculpture is. Mm-hmm. I am bored by how beautiful a lot of Italian Renaissance stuff is. I mean, like, it's amazing, but do I want to dedicate my life to it? No.
There's something that happens when people are kept within this certain parameters, or, like, this certain small space.
Yeah.
Or whenever these walls come up and the only thing that they have is each other.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, being in isolation for a while.
A little bit.
You get kind of weird.
Yeah. Things get a little weird. Their way of thinking was, I think, it seems almost, like, superstitious to us now.
Yeah.
But, even within Christianity, it was every single little bitty morsel of things that happen to you or that exist in nature, or literally everything in life is, like, filled with great Christian symbolism to them, And so when you start thinking that way, you can look at every little thing and it just, like, unravels like a grand mystery, and you can find all of these overlaps and connections, and I just think that that's cool, I don't know. I got into the architecture. Part of it was this professor that I had at UNT, because I applied a few other places for grad school after undergrad, and they weren't all medieval. I was open to studying various different things. But the more I've sort of become entrenched in the Middle Ages, the more I'm, like, unwilling to ever let it go. You just keep finding, and people think it's, like, the Dark Ages or this, like, period of, like, no progress or something.
It's not correct.
But it's not true at all. Like, bifocals are invented. Mm-hmm. The plague happens throughout the Renaissance too. So people who act like the plague is you know what I mean?
And, like, tremendous strides in architecture.
Huge, enormous. It's cool.
Flying buttresses.
Oh my God! Where would we be?
When buttresses fly.
Where?
Right?
Yeah.
Well, they're flying,
well, here they go, buddy. Check it out.
Would we have the airplane without them?
No.
Dang.
I mean, it's unrelated, but no. Still.
One of my favorite book series is The Pillars of the Earth.
Love Pillars of the Earth. Love Pillars of the Earth.
And
Eddie Redmayne.
Yes. Jack Jackson.
That's when I first met Eddie Redmayne. And I was like, I'm sorry, who is this kind of hunk?
Yeah, who kind of sounds like Kermit the Frog.
Well, why do I find him kind of hunky?
Yeah. And he's like this ethereal, like very intelligent man who's really good with his hands.
He was sort of a boy in it, wasn't he?
I mean, he was a boy who becomes a man.
Okay. All right.
Good. But anyway. Good. The book starts in this fictional town of Kingsbridge, and the author takes you through the process of starting a cathedral from scratch and finishing it about 100 years later.
Yeah.
And it's so cool.
It's
that
good.
is such a cool premise for a book.
It's good. I tell my students all the time, like, the difference in architectural philosophy. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm annoyed that they haven't finished the pedestrian walkway through campus yet. Right? Like, they've been working on it a year. Mm-hmm. That's enough time. I'm pissed off now. Mm-hmm. A medieval church, a master builder would start a church.
Tom Builder?
No, Tom Builder, knowing full well he would be dead and gone before it's done.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, to spend your whole life dedicated to something knowing you won't see it through to completion.
Yeah.
That's very different. But you know that for hundreds of years after you're gone, people will still be using this facility that you helped to build. It's a very different way of thinking.
And the fact that certain techniques and skills only existed in certain regions of Europe. Like, in the book, Jack leaves England for France so that he can learn specific building techniques that the English just did not have.
Because the French were sort of at the forefront of those kinds of things.
It was so cool.
Yeah.
And it's like, I just love little things like that. One of my favorite paintings from the Middle Ages, I forget what it's called, but it's the husband and wife. I think they're Dutch. And it has the mirror behind them.
The Arnolfini portrait, we call it. Arnolfini portrait.
Are they Italian?
Well, I don't know the couple's nationality, but it's painted by Jan van Eyck, who is Dutch, painting mostly in Belgium.
There's so much hidden within that painting, but it's
I love
also
that painting.
Like, it is so medieval. Like,
it's so good, and
so
he's like an early Northern Wren guy, and so it's painted in the 1430s, which is like over 100 years after the Italian Renaissance has started. But the further north you go, the slower that transition is, and so I prefer the Northern Renaissance anyway, because it's always like more medievally. And we look at that painting in a few of my classes. There's a website that you would like called Closer to Van Eyck. And they've taken most of Van Eyck's paintings and digitized them in like mega super high quality, so you can like zoom forever, forever zooms, and like and he did the Ghent altarpiece. Do you know the Ghent altarpiece that's in Monuments Men? Yeah, him and his brother did the Ghent altarpiece, but the Arnolfini portrait is like small, like it's like less than 2 by 3 feet. But when you zoom in on like the prayer beads by the mirror in the background, it kills me to death how perfect it is.
Well, the mirror itself is like, I love like just focusing on the mirror, let alone like all the other like signifiers of wealth in the painting. But the mirror specifically, it would have taken them months and months, if not years, to actually own that mirror. Yeah. Because at the time, I think it was only Venice.
Yeah, mirrored glass.
That's
a good point.
Have mirrored glass.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That is so cool.
It is cool.
I was in the National Gallery in London.
Yes.
And we had to leave. Pissed me off. We had to leave. I was walking back through the exhibits, and out of the corner of my eye, I saw them. And I just got to stand there and look at it for a second. It gave me chills.
So good.
It was so cool.
The greenest green, right? Her dress.
Yes.
It's beautiful.
Do you think that she is pregnant?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, listen. Go on a deep dive with me.
Please.
You're going to like this. When I learned about that painting, we called it the Arnolfini wedding portrait. Okay. And it was that this was a couple about to be wed, right? Some Nicolau, blah, 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 Arnolfini or whatever, and his wife. And we're like tripping over ourselves to explain away the fact that she looks pregnant. And they'd be like, no, she just gathered up all this material. She's so wealthy. And like, it is true that like the way bodies are depicted in the Northern Renaissance, sometimes they do have like these little shoulders that slope down into a more protuberant kind of belly situation. And so they'd be going over all these things that make it a wedding, right? But he looks so sad. Okay. He is like grief stricken, which is like in reels that show how a groom reacts to his bride. That's not it. Right.
So you think she probably died?
So listen,
Childbirth.
As it turns out, there's another Arnolfini whose wife died in childbirth the year before this was painted. So in 1433, she dies. Her name's Costanza Trenta. I swear I really just know this stuff in my head.
Good.
I'm a genius.
Because you're a wizard in a tower.
Yeah, because I'm a wizard in a tower. And so she dies in I also just taught it like literally last week. Okay. She dies in childbirth the year before this is painted. And so she standing there looking all pregnant and stuff. And then in the background on one of the like bedposts or a chair is carved St. Margaret, who is the patron saint of women in childbirth. And if you look at the chandelier above their heads, there's only one candle lit in the chandelier, and it's on his side. The candle on her side is like melted wax down on the chandelier. Her light has snuffed out. And then if you look at the images around the mirror, the images, they're from like a crucifixion story. And all of the images on his side of the mirror are while Jesus is still alive, like leading up to the crucifixion. And all the images on her side of the mirror are after the crucifixion. So it's like they're putting him in the grave and stuff like that. She's totally dead. Yeah, it's a different Arnolfini. I think it's a different couple than they believe for a long time. And this is only like a last 10, 15 years kind of theory that they've come up with.
That's so cool.
So yeah, she's fully pregnant.
Dang.
Could I bring up a really awesome medieval connection that we've done together that's also very timely?
Yes.
So we're recording Easter weekend.
Oh.
Me and Bevin have actually attended an Easter Sunday service at Notre Dame in Paris.
We did.
Are you serious?
We did.
Serious.
We did.
That is so cool.
We did. He came and visited the year I spent in Germany. He came for about a week.
Yeah.
And we took a train to Paris. And it happened to be over Easter weekend. And we did. We walked around Notre Dame and went to the service on Easter Sunday. We have a picture of us in front of Notre Dame on Easter Sunday.
Where did I make a bunch of noise? Because I tripped over something and I ran into something.
It was there. It was at Notre Dame, but it wasn't. Yeah, it was in the sacristy at Notre Dame, I think.
What's a sacristy again?
That's where they put their fancy belongings.
Isn't that where
it's like a storage room?
The wine?
It's like a storage room, basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
I tripped so hard.
You did. It was loud.
It made a very loud noise.
It wasn't during Easter Sunday, but yes, he did. Yeah, he did that.
I went to Europe after I graduated high school because my granny bought that trip for me.
Oh my God.
It was amazing.
That's awesome.
It was 14 days in Europe.
Wow.
And at the time, while I was still in school, they were getting everyone ready to go on this trip and they were advertising it. I didn't even bring it up to my parents because it felt so out of the realm of possibility for me.
Well, I understand that.
And I finally brought it up because one of my friends was going and I thought it was cool. And my granny said, well, you're going to go.
Oh my God.
Because when will you ever get that opportunity to
Oh my God, I'm going to cry.
Yeah, it was amazing. And one of the questions that I asked you guys is if you've ever been moved to tears by a work of art.
Yeah.
My experience with that, on this trip, we went to the Vatican.
Okay.
Which is,
good. Check.
The big place for Catholics.
Yeah.
And I will say it is grandiose. It's enormous.
Yeah.
But the only place that I felt what you could describe as God was in Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Because
it's nuts.
You were just surrounded by, what I thought was really cool about Notre Dame specifically, and I'm sure other cathedrals have this, but so many of the things inside of it were made by the people living around the area. That was a dedication for them to their church.
True. Yeah.
And
very much so.
Yeah, just like being in that place was amazing.
I love the light that comes through stained glass.
Oh my God.
And like when my first study abroad, and I did the same thing, like I was afraid to even bring it up. I thought, no, we can't afford this. This is insane. But my roommate at the time, Rachel Gaddy, shout out Rachel Gaddy, she was like my rock. And she was like, let's just go do this. And she was so brave about it. So I was like, okay, I'll try to be brave too. And we went, and like they're having like a historic heat wave in France while we were there. And like nothing's air conditioned, and they don't put ice in their drinks. But every time we walked into a church, it was like 10, 15 degrees cooler, you know? Plus then the light that comes through and all of that. Like it's a totally different experience than any other place you would have ever been in your life. You know, like if you're alive during the late Middle Ages, right? So you walk in, and it would be really easy to believe that like this is a different environment. Like this is something supernatural or outside of our everyday lives going on here.
When I was in the Vatican, it was like, okay, well, you know, here's the main thing. Let's walk through the gardens over here, and then we can take a tour of our blood money art that we have.
Okay, good.
From people
Love that.
We've collected.
It's really good,
over the years, and I was like, well, I mean, this is great, but I don't know.
No.
But Notre Dame, like feeling the presence of just thousands and thousands of faithful through hundreds and hundreds of years, and also knowing the story of Notre Dame where it was derelict for a long time.
Yeah.
There was, I think, on the back side of like a seating area towards the altar.
Yeah.
It was wooden. It was carved, hand carved. And it was, I think, hand carved by the same family over the course of about like 30 years.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And seeing that, I was like, oh,
like a carpenter
man.
in town or whatever.
Yeah. Like that one got me.
It was a choir stall, probably.
That. Yeah. The coolest statue in Notre Dame, there is a dead Christ.
Love.
And he's laying splayed out.
Yes.
And he, even though it is made out of just gray marble, somehow they made him look like pale, like gaunt and pale.
Ooh, I like that.
And he's very, he's emaciated.
Yeah.
You can tell, like, this is a corpse.
Yeah.
And standing over him is a skeleton in a robe with a scythe.
Ooh.
And it is stretching out towards you.
Dude.
To remind you that you are, in fact, mortal.
That's good.
And I said, yes!
That is so good.
It's
really good, right?
I need all that gothic.
It's so good.
How many movies and television shows are based off of that?
God, it's
that
good.
Symbolism and feeling.
Yes.
It's too good.
If there is anything that I will go ham for, it is Catholic pageantry.
Oh, God, yeah. Heck yeah. I can't get enough of it.
Yeah.
I can't.
Can I give you a couple cry works of art?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, please tell me.
So emotional.
So there's probably more than this, but these are the two I remember. One was on my study abroad trip when I was an undergrad. We lived in Florence, Italy for like 2.5 months. It changed my whole life to do it. So if anyone's listening out there, don't hesitate to seek out a study abroad opportunity.
Definitely.
But I went to the Uffizi Gallery, which is in Florence, and I'm just expecting to go to a museum. You know, I'm going to walk through an art museum and see some pieces. I'll see some pieces I kind of know. You know, I'm only a junior in college at that time. And I walk right in, and there is Laocoon, which is this massive, just incredible sculpture. So that got me going, okay? Then I didn't cry, but I was like, holy crap, I'm in a different realm right now. I'm not in the Cincinnati Art Museum anymore.
Laocoon would have made me cry,
I'm in Florence, Italy, right? And it's like a time warp, too. It's like you don't remember what year it is anymore because everything looks like it's from the 1400s. So when you turn the corner, and then there's The Birth of Venus by Sandro Botticelli.
Holy crap.
And it had just been recently restored. The color is just electric, this kind of teal aqua kind of background color. And it just hit me. I had to sit down.
Yeah.
I'm just weeping like I'm in church.
Dang.
And it basically was...
Because you were.
I was in my church, basically.
Right.
So that was a big one that hit me, and my friends that were on the trip are just walking by it.
Yeah.
And I'm just like heaving over here.
We've all been there.
And then I did like a ugly snot cry when I went to the Vatican, and I went to the Sistine Chapel. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't expecting, I knew what the Sistine Chapel was, seeing all the images, but you don't realize kind of where things are really. I mean, I'm just looking at...
It's a very interesting space.
It's really cool. And then I walk in, and it had just been recently restored to maybe like 4 years before then. And the Last Judgment wall. And at that time, I didn't realize that the Last Judgment wasn't on the ceiling.
I like the Last Judgment wall better than the ceiling.
Yeah, the Judgment wall is incredible, and it was the color blue.
Yeah.
I had never seen, because the size of that wall,
it's huge.
I can't put it into words right now, but it just felt like the biggest work of art I've ever seen in my life.
I think it's over 40 feet tall.
Yeah, so, and the amount of, not only it's blue, but that specific blue, that pigment that he used is a different type of pigment. And it changed, like, my brain chemistry in that moment. Mm-hmm. And I'm, like, crying, snot crying. And I, like, kind of, like, hid in a corner, to try to recover.
It's a private moment.
Yeah, I mean, I just didn't realize. And then this figure of Christ who is just hulked out on steroids, just has all the abs and biceps in the world. And he's just towering over you, just like you said with the sculpture, with the skeleton and everything. I had a very similar, like, reflecting on my whole existence.
Mm-hmm. I call that fittest man in the world CrossFit Jesus in class. The Michelangelo Jesus. Michelangelo Jesus.
Might as well.
He's going to pump it up.
Yeah.
I cried at the French large-scale painting room in the Louvre. Ooh. You walk in, and it's like a huge grand hall, really, and the walls are like maroon, like sort of a dark burgundy color, and it has like Liberty Leading the People, Raft of the Medusa.
That's the one that
like
got me.
all of those, like all of these great romanticist and history paintings and that sort of thing, and that's the one that got me. That's the room that got me.
When I saw the Raft of the Medusa,
it'll get you.
It's like you are freaking standing there. It's like you can reach out and try and help them off of this raft.
It's so big, and they're so desperate.
The fact that that artist was brave enough to actually go out and find the material he needed, he used bodies.
Mm-hmm.
He used
he went to like hospitals and morgues and stuff.
Which really
to study.
was not done before that, I don't think.
And he interviewed some of the survivors from the raft story.
That's so cool.
I know. He's cool.
You just feel like you're looking through a window at these people who, the desperation.
My favorite is the one they call the father. He's the one that's like sitting on the backside, and he's just like catatonic, dead-faced. Yeah. And he's got a dead person in his lap that is generally interpreted as his son, right?
You want to hear...
And he's just over it.
You want to hear, like, the saddest thing ever?
Yeah.
When I was at the Louvre, the Dutch Masters wing was closed.
No.
Criminal.
And I got there, and I just had to, like, stand there.
Is that what made you cry in an art museum?
Yeah. Oh, my gosh. How am I forgetting his name? The Master of Light.
Thomas Kincaid.
No.
Yes.
Rembrandt.
No.
Vermeer.
I wanted to see a real Vermeer so bad.
Yeah.
Because I think that they have the Milkmaid.
No, Milkmaid is at Rijksmuseum. We just saw that.
Okay.
We just saw that in Amsterdam. But something else.
So museums are very interesting because, like I mentioned earlier, some of them are obtained through mysterious
ill-gotten goods.
Another experience that hit me emotionally, but for the wrong reasons, was also at the Louvre. No, it was at the National Museum in London. And, that museum is divided by parts of the world.
Right.
For a reason.
Not uncommon.
Because the British have been everywhere.
Sure.
And we were in... It was weird. It was like parts of the African wing were connected to kind of like Australia and the islands.
Oceania, they call it generally. Yeah.
So I'm walking through all these African masks, which are really cool, but I turned the corner, and I was on my own, like, a little bit. I was kind of far away from my friends. I turned the corner, and I'm entering Oceana, and looking at me is an Easter Island head.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like I was in the room with another person.
Yeah.
And
weird.
Like, it's almost like it's like you walk in on somebody and you're like, oh,
right. Oh, sorry.
That's literally the feeling
I shouldn't
that I
be
felt.
here. Yeah.
The energy coming off of that, this ancient, mysterious thing.
Yeah.
It was so odd to me.
Yeah. This thing that shouldn't be here.
It should not be here. And it's almost like I felt bad. It felt annoyed by me.
Yeah.
And I know
God, here comes this stupid American.
That sounds like bullshit, but
No.
like, that is genuinely the vibe that I got.
Yeah.
And so here are the rest of my friends. They do not have the same reaction that I do.
Right.
And they say, let's get a picture with the Easter Island head.
Yeah.
And just being close to it, I like, to this day, I feel like tense. It's just like, this should not be here. This is an entity.
Yeah.
And you took it from its home. It's so weird.
Yeah.
I've never experienced anything like that before or since.
That's interesting. I always show, it's a popular conversation with the Elgin marbles, the pediment sculptures from the Parthenon that are at the British Museum. And it's one of their more famous examples where like Greece has been asking for those back for a very long time.
Don't they actually have like an open space in the Greek museum?
They built a whole built a whole museum for it basically.
Oh wow.
And because for a long time that was the British response, was like, no, you don't have the facilities like to care for it or whatever. So they built the Acropolis Museum in Athens, and they've got a place for them. I don't know. I don't think it'll ever happen, but I always show in class when we talk about those, and I bring up this issue and stuff. And at one point there was this ad campaign about it, and it had like one of the caryatids from what they call the Porch of the Maidens. It's another Greek sculpture. And in the billboard, it's the sculpture, her, and she says that I am Greek, my sisters are there, I want to go home, or something like that. Like, it's her speaking about wanting to go home, right? As opposed to just like a sculpture that was made in Greece, but like sort of making her the active speaker and the person. Cool. And there's powerful. There's several different ones from that campaign. And that's a really good one because she is like one of a set basically, and she's in the British Museum and the rest of them are not. And then one of them is got like looks like a censorship bar like over the male jungle region of a Greek sculpture, and it says like we gave you drama, philosophy, math or something, and then it's like, please give us our marbles back. And it's funny because it's like over the jungle region and it talks about marbles, but it means sculptures. So they're hitting you both like in the heartstrings, but also in the funnies,
I know that he is not Greek, but that makes me think of Tony Soprano all the time.
I don't watch The Sopranos.
He is a very Italian man. Right. He's very proud to be Italian, and he's always like, we gave them a beautiful food, a beautiful culture. We gave them Christopher fucking Columbus, and they just take a shit on us.
That's good. Hey.
Can I give you a nerdy art education thread through this?
Absolutely, you can.
So the first ever art teacher that's known to recorded history was from Hellenistic Greece.
Cool.
Nice.
Named Pamphilus.
Oh, that's a good name.
Did he hand out pamphlets?
Pamphilus was
a
drawing instructor. And then Pamphilus's philosophy on drawing spread as other philosophers talked about the arts and defined the arts, and the arts started to get into different types of schools. But Pamphilus was the first ever original art teacher
cool.
that we know
saint of art teachers.
Yeah.
Maybe in the cave era, in Lascaux Cave, maybe there was an instructor that taught people how to do that, but that's just not available to us right now. But Pamphilus is the original dude.
That's neat. This has nothing to do with that, but
Okay.
Louisa May Alcott,
Yes.
the author of Little Women,
Yes.
her dad invented recess.
Oh, it's interesting.
Oh, that sounds like something you should
I like
know.
that. So he discovered that students benefit from a playtime,
Yeah.
a daily playtime.
Yeah. And that was added to the list of things why people thought that his school was a joke. And that's
Right.
why
Good.
in the book,
I like
I'm
that.
not
like
surprised
even
by
in
it.
the book, like she writes, the fictional father to be made fun of for
Got it.
letting black kids come to school.
Yeah.
And for letting them go outside. And,
Wow.
Yeah.
Just a bunch of crazy jokes.
Crazy.
Yeah, I'm strangely obsessed with the inventor of
Oh,
kindergarten.
God. Don't.
I
Don't
will
get
not.
him.
This is okay.
Just do it. Just tell her all about it.
But this is what I want this to stay in the recording. Okay.
Okay.
I want you to invite me back, and that's what
Just
we
to
talk
talk
about.
about
We just
kindergarten?
talk about kindergarten. Yeah.
Are they German?
Yes. So it's Frederick Froebel. Invite me back. Okay. So I'll just.
He's
leave it
in love
there.
with Frederick Froebel.
It's good stuff. It's good.
You
stuff.
should see him get excited about it in public. It's embarrassing.
Froebel highly influenced every type of schooling that you've gone through, every building that you have been in. I'm telling you, there's like a major
Here it goes.
influence. So,
Get Froebeled.
yes.
You're about to get Froebeled right now.
Okay.
You don't even know
It
what's
might
coming.
be a separate podcast in its own.
You're about to get Froebeled.
like not just episode, but a
Yeah,
series.
you
know?
could.
Yeah,
and so many people would listen to
They
it.
would.
Intently, every word. They would love it.
lots of sponsors.
Yeah. We love kindergarten.
Froebel. Froebel.
Did Froebel develop the rainbow rug where you could pick a spot and have nap time?
Carpet time?
I would guarantee he was like the precursor to it of having.
Das Rainbow Rug.
I love it. Yes, exactly. But they would go. They had actual like festivals and any holidays that were in that culture. You would celebrate them at school. And in the past, you would never do that. Like today, when kids have Valentine's Day, they make little Valentines and hand them out. I mean, just simple things like that started in kindergarten in Germany, and then his teachings got spread to various people in the United States, and then they started teaching his principles as well.
It doesn't translate audibly, but I'm giving Molly a hard
It's
side-eye
really good.
eye roll
It's
situation right now.
Yeah, you're giving a let's move on look.
You said it.
But that's why I preface just call me in on a separate episode, okay?
Well, speaking of, changing how things are done in the school world, I think that things are changing in public schools nowadays very quickly and also maybe not for the best in a lot of situations or circumstances. What is one thing that you would want to change about public schools?
Oh.
Like something that you wish that every school would do.
Man, there's probably a lot of things, but if you look at how public schools are funded, it's through a series of incentives. So if the school has these types of test scores, or if the school does this or that, then they get more money. And there are some schools that just might not achieve those things and aren't able to get those funds. Yeah. Also, it means you will see different school districts changing things so that I'm trying to be very diplomatic with my response.
Yeah, he is.
Like extremely. You'll see certain school districts they might remove a few class periods from a certain class and replace it with maybe a thing that resembles like a study hall or a study thing in order to get those test scores up, in order to get the incentive. Not necessarily so that the child is thriving, because they're removing the enrichment. We're removing the enrichment and replacing it with a study hall type of thing so that we can bump up our achievement.
We're taking them out of the arts so that they score better on their math test.
Awesome.
Basically.
I didn't say
sort
that,
of what we're
but
saying.
I'm just saying, there's some...
Yes, he did.
There's... Schools can reconfigure how they do things on a day-to-day basis to react to those incentives. And I don't blame them for it. Like, that's how the rules are written. And if they want to get those resources, they need to get creative on how they can reach those incentives. But that means they sacrifice other things. So I wish some things would kind of stay more sacred and we could work on, our system being just a little bit different with our funding. But
I think what strikes me is how often decision makers in regards to educational policies are not educators and have never been educators, and that's, it's not just in education. I think that's in a lot of places where whoever it is that's kind of got the power in any given circumstance is making decisions about a thing they really don't understand or know anything about.
I want to say our current Secretary of Education in Tennessee, one is not even from the state, but also has never
been an educator
in a classroom before.
It's just not uncommon in education or any other sphere, basically, that the people who end up sort of as the authorities in any given circumstance don't actually have much experience doing that thing.
Well, I did a big research paper when I was in grad school, which was many years ago now. But I'm
hundreds of years ago.
But I'm still super young. I mean, like me
so
and Molly
old.
are like the same age.
No,
right?
No.
But
Wrong.
when I was in grad school,
Class of 2016.
Oh yeah, that's me too.
Him too. Yeah. Right. Uh-huh.
And in grad school, I wrote this paper, or I had to do a research paper on basically voting records on the arts. And I was specifically taking a class that was all about public art, community art, like art that's happening now and gets funded, and how it gets funded and things like that. And like, I knew nothing about this topic. And we talked a lot about PBS and how PBS television gets funded and things like that. So I wrote this paper, and it's the way that our government votes, our senators and congressmen, it's all record. So you can look up how things were voted on. You can probably predict depending on what state you live in. And so we looked up the voting records of all these different major politicians across the United States in specific arts topics. So if it was, say, to continue funding PBS, that is a vote that gets cast. And we trust our elected politicians to cast that vote, right? So we see the voting record, and it doesn't look great. For people like me that love the arts, it's like, oh, why would they vote no on
For viewers like you.
Yeah, for viewers like you. And then our homework, though, was to take those people that voted no and do some research on them and see what are they doing with the arts. So I found all these interviews, and I didn't look up every single person that casted a no vote, but I looked up interviews with them. And, oh, yeah, my daughter is in ballet, and my son is in this, and we just took a trip to Europe, and we went to these things, and all the things that they're citing are arts.
Yeah.
And then on the other side, when they go to clock in to their job and go vote, they voted no. So, and then our professor, of course, was not surprised. That was why they wanted us to do that exercise. And it was just shocking to me as a young grad student, like, why would you have your daughter in ballet and they're in private school taking legit art classes in private school, and then you voted no?
What conclusion do you come to about that?
Saving money.
It's almost as if politicians are disingenuous.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Stop the presses.
It's insane. I couldn't vote in a different world than how I feel, and I think some politicians can easily do that. They can have things separated in their brains, and they can afford to do all these extra things, with their salary they make, and other people can't,
Right.
But they're not looking out for other people. So,
are you saying that they might not be the best at, stepping into someone else's shoes? And
like empathy, or...
That's crazy. Crazy.
I'm just telling you about a paper that I did in grad school.
That is all.
That's right.
And many things could have changed since then, but...
Right.
But it was so recent.
Oh, it was very recent.
That you were in graduate school.
It was because I graduated high school in 2016. I graduated high school.
Yeah. You're so young.
So, there's all that drama going on about, potentially, being defunded or just schools really not valuing the arts or whatever. But also, that can be said for just devaluing teachers in general. Mm-hmm. And, your whole job is preparing people to become teachers. What is, the main thing that you try and hammer home to these people to try and kind of, measure, their expectations?
Sure. So, I guess my first reaction, that's a very big question. That's
me.
You're good at that. My first reaction
I'm a journalist, guys.
is always, if we can build relationships with the students first. And I know that's a stereotype that there's a lot of issues that relationship building can't solve. Mm-hmm. But I think if you don't have that at all as your foundation to why you teach,
it's a first step to just about anything.
It's the first step. So if you want to be with your students and you want to share this information, you want to walk with them through this journey of the school year, that's the first thing. I think another thing is having a mentor. That's a really healthy mentor for you. There are a lot of teachers that are frustrated and they've been through a lot. Some of them really want to help the next generation, and others want to tell you to quit your job and to not be a teacher.
They're just tired.
They're tired, and I respect them too. So I don't disrespect people that are frustrated with teaching at all.
I mean, those same ladies that I mentioned earlier that are so nice to me and remember my name after years and years. They're the same people that told me whenever I was back in secondary ed that I needed to get out.
To not be a teacher, yeah.
Yeah, and then another thing, I like to just tell my story. So that's why I wanted to talk about the research paper I wrote versus what I think about politicians.
Yeah.
So my story is, I moved to a different state, taught for a few years. I learned a ton, and I was a high school teacher. And then I knew in my heart that I want to discover other things. So I could keep working here, and I was respected, and I was doing well there. There would be nothing wrong with me staying there, and I lived in a lovely city, and it was very satisfying to work and live there. But there were lots of things I was noticing after 3 years. They were things that I know I can't solve these things. I'm not that I didn't have any role or any power, but it just wasn't my responsibility to change these bigger things like incentivizing funding and things like that. So I, instead of just staying there and being miserable, I used my 2 degrees to my advantage and sought out other opportunities that fit where I wanted to be at that time in my life. So if you're just totally stuck, you might find other options. I'm not advocating that you quit your job, but if you're miserable being a teacher, find some mentorship, have some community, connect with your students. If that's not enough and it's still not the space for you at this time in your life, look at your other options. And I pursued grad school. After grad school, I went back and I taught middle school for a year because I needed to make some quick money, actually. And I was so thankful that I went back. Not that it was an easy job, but through that, I got an opportunity to work at the University of Georgia because I went back to Savannah, Georgia for a second time. And because I was already there, they contacted me and wanted to see if I would work for them. And then after I worked at the University of Georgia for 1 year, I worked at an art museum for 2 years in Colorado. All of that was pursuing options, and I wasn't stewing over how bad teaching is. I went and pursued other things so that I could be happy. And then I eventually came, here to Tech, and I'm training teachers now. So I just share my life with them. And if I had an alum that taught for a few years and then realized that this system is just not the right perfect fit for them, and they pursued other opportunities that were in the education realm, I would be happy as a clam. You don't have to work at a school for 30 years. That's a mentality from our parents or older, where you get a job and you work there for 30 years and you're supposed to be happy. So sometimes you can tweak things and you can make it work. You can get mentorship, you can get more resources, and it does get better. And then there's other times where it's time to seek out a new opportunity, and that's what I've done.
It's time to Goldilocks it.
Yeah, I love that way of thinking. It doesn't have to be perfect, but if you're just stuck in the mud and you hate it,
do something else.
Use your degree. That's why you got it. It's an opportunity to move forward. And there's thousands and thousands of schools across America. Most people's teaching licenses have reciprocity, which means that it can transfer to another state. It might be something as quick as a quick form you fill out. Some people have to take like a class, depending on the state. But you might just want to work in a different type of school, a different area, and then magically things are a lot better for you.
Earning your PhD and doing all these jobs, like, it's taken time and it's taken resources and your own energy. I'm sure that you've reached a point where maybe you have felt stagnant or maybe depressed or not really, like, sure of what to do. How do you self-motivate? Like, how do you help yourself get off your duff and, like, make the right decisions for you?
Good.
Because, like, I think that a lot of people can get really bogged down and feel really hopeless and kind of maybe even forget that, like, this isn't your life forever. Yeah. You can do other things. Yeah. So how do you guys self-motivate?
So I took a longer route through my PhD than I had intended to. Okay. Like, I did my undergrad, I did in 3 years. Master's was in 2, right? So I was, like, moving at a pretty good clip. And then I started a PhD, and at the time, I think the national average for a PhD in art history was, like, 5 to 7 years or something. And I was like, okay.
Really?
Yeah. And I took longer than that, okay? Wow. Like, I intended to do it like that, and then it didn't happen. And so there were times that I really did feel frustrated and, like, and real stuck. And I would sort of get frustrated with myself, like, just open the dissertation document and finish it. Bevin, idiot, But there were times that I sort of felt, like, paralyzed by it. Didn't even want to, like, open the document to work on it. I mean, it's just, you work on it for so long and you really kind of get sick of it at a point. But one of the lifesavers that I had was my best bro, David. Thomas is one of my very best friends, and he is also an art historian. And we were working through grad school at the same time in different places. And so we would call each other, we video chat. We do it through the Facebook Messenger video chat function, but whatever.
We do it through the Facebook.
We do it through the Facebook. It's like an old millennial thing to say, isn't it? Baby. And so, but we just call each other, and we just, like, both are sitting at our desks, like, kind of working.
Yeah.
And we did that almost every day for a very long time.
That's cool.
And it was just about the ritual of, like, go sit at your desk, turn your computer on, and try to get a couple paragraphs written, And we would do that. And there would be an hour period where we didn't even speak to each other. We're just both sitting on, chat. Or we could say, God, what's the word I'm trying to think of when da-da-da-da-da? And yeah, that's perfect. Or does this sentence sound good? Or we would talk about something totally unrelated, right? And just sort of chit chat. But it was sort of an accountability buddy for one thing, right? But also a support system for when it's feeling really hard and stupid. And in almost every research project I've ever done, I have one or multiple times where I say, this whole thing is stupid and nobody cares and it doesn't make any sense. And I have to just start over, burn it down and start over, right? And you sort of need that person to help you not spiral when that happens. And I've been very fortunate that, I sort of have this, we call each other best bro. And so I have this bro here that we can sort of pull each other out. And even now, we both teach. He's doing his first year of a full-time teaching position at a university. And we've had those moments and we'll just look at each other and say, living the dream though. And like, it feels like jaded and cynical, right? To like have the worst day of your life and then be like, but living the dream. But at the same time, we're reminding each other, like, you literally are sort of living your dream. Like, this is what you always wanted to do. And even if a class didn't go great, you still taught a class. You taught a class. You're doing what you want to do. You sort of are living the dream, you know? And so to sort of have people who get it and go through it also, right? And of course we are married, and so we have that benefit of sort of having a built-in person that understands what you did and what you are doing. But even if it's not a person's partner, but just somebody, like your cohort in grad school kind of becomes a real lifeline. Or in this case, Dave and I met in undergrad, and we went to different places for grad school, but we just always stayed in touch back and forth, and we were going through it at the same time. So just sort of having other people, because it is a process that I think people who haven't done it have trouble understanding it. You know, even as supportive as both of our families always are, and very proud of us and supportive, when you've not gone through that process, it really is pretty different than just about anything else. And I think that's true of lots of things in life, right? To talk to somebody who's actually been through that same thing can be very different. And so having that support system is important.
It's weird talking about my client experiences as a graphic designer with, like, maybe my dad.
Sure.
Who will get maybe 20% of what I'm trying to say.
And you like it, and you tell those stories, and y'all engage about it on a different level. You know, like, I love telling my parents about stuff. My mom was a teacher, so that part, you know, and my dad loves history, and he loves Europe, and, you know, so we get those things, but there are things about academia that don't translate to people who don't have those same experiences.
It's like, I can hit it on another level whenever I'm talking to, say, maybe like my friend Jesse or Tanner.
Somebody who does similar work.
Yeah,
it is different.
I would add so I totally agree. And I pitch Bevin things all the time, or vent to Bevin about things, and she gets them immediately because we have a very similar job. So I'm very thankful for that.
You're so welcome.
Oh, thank you. And one of the things I would add, though, that's more pragmatic, is I have deadlines. So I set deadlines for myself. I sometimes don't meet them, but I meet them more often than if I didn't set the deadline. And I'll seek out opportunities if it's to, like, publish something or whatever it is. And specifically, I choose ones that have a deadline. Because I need that to, you know, put my butt into order and actually get it done. If it's just a rolling deadline, I'm never gonna prioritize it. And I wish I could be more disciplined. And then I have this weird tendency where I struggle to be able to relax. I can't relax. So, like, I'm like paranoid that I'm not being productive enough. And then in that paranoia or weird in-between state, I'm not being productive either.
Right, because you're worried. I'm
worried. So then I'm not in the right mindset to work on something. So, like, I have to be very self-aware. Okay, I'm just spinning wheels in the hamster wheel today. How can I get off the hamster wheel? And sometimes it's just do something productive, like I'll go do the dishes, or the other day I went to work and just took down some posters and organized a little bit, and that'll help me for when I get back to work on Monday. And I didn't really do a lot, but, like, it helped me mentally feel like I can relax now. You know, so I think it's mainly a mental game.
It is, dude. You know? It is. You got to have the the grit up in your noggin to just keep getting up and doing the things that feel hard.
And to keep good people around you.
Yeah. That's numero uno.
And just know the people that are, and I've had to learn this the hard way, and I still have to keep reminding myself of this, the people that I admire, like, even people I don't really know, but they're the ones that are, like, highly productive. I want to be like them. You're not seeing what's behind the scenes.
No.
You don't know their resources. You don't know their schedule. You don't know what they're doing. You don't know the sacrifice they're putting in. So, like, I would see that from my my major professor when I was in my PhD program. He had published, like, over 20 books. And he gave me a glimpse into what it's like to do that. And it's just like, oh my lordy, like how can you dedicate that much time and energy, and there's a lot of sacrifice with family, and you know, you're dedicating your whole life to this production, and then you're sacrificing these other things.
To me, there's an important balance in there. Like I want to be successful in my career, but I also want to still have strong family relationships, still have hobbies and fun things that I do. Yeah. You know, I don't want to be a workaholic that never retires or never does anything they like doing. And academia is full of people who pursue their careers like to the detriment of their personal lives. Yeah. And I have zero interest in ever being one of those people, you know.
I don't think that you can be.
No, I
That's
can't.
Impossible.
No.
She has too many
I can't.
hobbies that need her, like she planted tulips yesterday, and that's so healthy. And you can actually be more productive if you plant tulips one day, and then the next day you're refreshed and you can do something productive. Like be on a podcast.
I was like, I know if I go in and grade 10 papers, then I can come out and mow the yard. I play games like that with myself.
I love how mowing the yard is like a fun thing.
Oh, yeah. Oh, God, I love mowing the yard.
You and my dad.
I'm outdoor Bevin now. Like, now that it's, like, warm and springy outside, like, I don't want to be inside. I want to be outside.
My dad would never admit it, but I think that him mowing the yard is his zen.
It is. My dad is a yard mower, and I'll be out there, like, watering my grass by hand with the water hose and be like, I'm my dad.
When in reality,
I'm my
you're
dad.
watering your soul.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I am. I'm watering my soul.
I remember us talking about this maybe a couple weeks ago. So when you were in the Netherlands with 19 students, right? I guarantee that trip is going to inspire you to do a bunch of stuff over the summer or figure something out. Yeah. But when you're gone for 9 days and you're not doing research, you're not answering emails, you're not grading.
It can feel like you're getting way behind.
But that trip and the students who really loved that trip are going to inspire you know to do something very productive with that.
Yeah.
I wish I could have gone.
It was so good. Cool. Molly, we saw so many cool things.
I wasn't there either. It's okay.
Is it the type of porcelain? Is it Delft?
Delft. We went to the Royal Delft Museum.
Man, when I saw that, I was like, son of a...
We went to the Royal Delft Museum. It was cool. They have a guy, you can like walk through. The tour of the museum basically ends in like the workshop where he's like sitting there painting and stuff.
That's so cool.
I know, it was really neat. I didn't know they had some different like displays set up where the glaze when they're painting it on is black. And then it turns blue when it gets fired. Never even considered such a thing.
So you could have been working on your emails, but instead you were.
I learned that.
I'd rather be doing that.
I mean, it was. I mean.
So is that like pottery aesthetic called Delft, or is it a type of pottery?
Well.
Because like the blue and white pottery. Like, my granny collected that for years.
The Delft kind, or.
Some.
So like the Delftware, they call it. Yeah. But it's like, it's tied up in like the Dutch, like trading and it is inspired by like Chinese ceramic that is like the porcelain with black or with blue.
The majority of what she had contained elements like that. Yeah.
So then Delft starts making it inspired by that basically. I don't know whether Delftware, I mean, I think it's like the aesthetic. I think it's mostly the aesthetic and where it's made. Okay. Like it's only Champagne if it's from the Champagne region of France. Like I think Delftware is that made by the Royal Delft Company. Yeah. But after we got back, Rena sent me a picture at Home Goods of like this whole rack of Delftware, and they all said like made in China on the bottom. So that was funny, right? But like we call it Delftware because it looks like that.
You know how in the 90s, I don't remember like what the brand is, but I think the pattern for China was called Willow.
Yeah. It's Corningware, is it not?
Yes.
Yeah.
My family had Every single possible piece of that.
Okay.
And I actually have some in my kitchen.
Ours
right now.
wasn't willow. Ours had the little blue flowers, like that standard Corningware. What is it, like 4 blue flowers or something?
That's cool.
Yeah.
But speaking of just, what we were talking about just now.
Speaking of that.
Speaking of,
Brilliant.
learning how to be a person, which I'm still doing, apparently. So I am 26 years old.
Me too.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, though, the majority of my listeners are either the same age as me or, like, a little bit younger, a little bit older. Like, we're pretty much all in our 20s.
Okay, yeah.
Us too.
Like me.
Well, but the thing is, though, like, that might not be true.
You as an older person?
Well, I wanted to ask, looking back, what is something that you would really stress to your 26-year-old self?
Okay.
You're asking on behalf of a younger generation.
Because suddenly I am an adult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And don't really feel like one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Me too.
I don't think anyone ever does.
I definitely have a role as like an art dad at work.
No, you're art uncle.
It's an aunt and uncle.
Okay, or we're aunt and uncle now.
Situation.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
do identify strongly as an aunt.
I guess my gut reaction is I was always very, very well supported throughout my childhood and everything, but I needed to make my own decisions and do my own things, okay?
I'm trying to learn
that
right now.
And I've noticed my students are still stuck in the things maybe their parents want them to do, and it's not their fault. That's just how they grew up. That's just part of maturing. Yeah. So, like, after I got my master's degree, I moved 9 states away from my family. And not that everyone should do that. It was the best thing for me. And it wasn't something that my family wanted me to do. It wasn't something I planned on doing the year before. It was something that my instinct said, I want to move there and I want to do that. And I'm going to do that.
Because you're kind of forcing yourself to be your own person.
Yeah. And I learned that from study abroad.
Yeah.
So when I did my Florence, Italy trip, I proved to myself I can fly across the world and I can do this. I was terrified to get on that first plane. And then a couple years later, I'm actively loading up the moving truck and moving down to southern Georgia. So like I would say make your own decisions, listen to your family, listen to your friends, but follow the things that you want to do. When I quit my job in Savannah after 3 years, which isn't that long at all in the teaching world, everybody told me not to do it. But I knew for some reason I've done my research. I've looked at all the other opportunities. This is the thing that makes sense for me. I want to commit to this and I'm going to do it. And I'm going to bet on myself. So that would be my advice for all of my younger self and my students is if you commit to it, you can figure out and you can do it. And if there are moments where you're not figuring it out, like when we were in grad school, we had to lean on people like our professors and peers to help us get through it, like with Dave, right? With David. So I when I quit my job, that was a major risk because I was making 40-something grand a year, which was fine. I had a retirement plan. I had an annuity, all this crap.
Nerd.
Gave it all up.
Right?
I gave it.
I don't even know what that is.
I know you don't. But I gave it all up on purpose, and not but a few months later, I met Bevin.
Word.
So I could have stayed in Savannah with my annuity that you don't even know what it is, and my retirement plan.
Or I could get a bad bitch.
Right, exactly.
Hello.
So I'd rather take a
Easy
risk,
choice.
bet on myself, and see what happens versus just stay with the status quo because that's what my parents want me to do, or that's what the safest thing to do is. But it doesn't mean you take a bunch of risks. It just means do your research, figure out what you want to do, and then commit to it. Make sure it's the right thing for you, and then go for it. And then, like I proved to myself when I graduated from UNT with my PhD, I moved right back to Savannah, Georgia, because I needed to get a job. So it's not. So it really wasn't. I went right back to where I was and had a job. Yeah. So it's not as scary as maybe some people think.
I think for me, my natural state is to be risk averse.
Same.
I am not a natural risk taker.
I am a very anxious person.
I'm an extraordinarily anxious person. And so Jeremy said he was nervous to get on a plane for study abroad.
I was, yeah.
But in comparison to the way I felt when I did my study abroad, there is no way we were even in the same stratosphere. Okay?
No, we weren't.
No. I was a kid with lots of anxiety. Like, I couldn't spend the night at my friends' houses and things. Like, I would always call to be picked up. And I had panic attacks starting at, like, 8 years old and stuff.
If there's not anything to be stressed out about, I'm going to think about something to the point where I will be stressed out.
I started having panic attacks literally in third grade. I remember the first one. And so when I moved away to college, I mean, I went to college 5 hours from my parents. And I think that shocked them, or, you know, in some way. Anyway, I think there was some part of them that found that unexpected. And I did it. And yeah, it was scary. And yeah, I had panic attacks and I would call my mom and, you know, and then when study abroad time came around and my roommate was so brave about it that I decided to be brave. And I woke up the morning we were leaving horrified. I was like, oh my God, what have you done? How do we get our money back, not go on this thing without like bringing shame to our families forever? Like, I can't do this, you know? And I just said, okay, you know, shut up, go take a hot shower as hot as you can stand it and get on the airplane. Right. And little things sort of like that and then the whole time I was there, I was horrifically anxious, right? Like, it was a very anxious time. But it was also the best thing I ever did, you know? And so I started doing things like one little step at a time that was very scary, and I would be anxious the whole time. But then you realize, like, you can do scary shit, you know? And I tell my students I talk to my students about this study abroad experience, especially when I talk to them about Impressionism and Post-Impressionism, and like me seeing some of these things in person, and like liking Van Gogh as a kid is one of the things that like made me want to pursue this like I have. And so, like, doing the scary thing and realizing I can just go have a panic attack in Paris just as well as I can have one sitting at home, right? It doesn't have to stop me from doing anything. And these like baby step moments, and then you look back and you say, well, I was able to do that, so I can probably go live in Germany for a year and do research for my dissertation, you know? And like, you just learn by doing scary things, right? That you can keep doing those things and it's okay. And I think for me as a kid with a lot of anxieties, that sort of came out in the form of many fears, right? Like, I'm afraid of flying. I'm afraid of heights. I'm, you know, afraid of weird foods that I'm not familiar with, whatever. But it all is actually that I'm anxious. I'm not really like afraid, right? And I think that's the message to baby Bevin, and to some of our students, that, you know, I see a lot of similarities between a lot of my students and me when I was in college, is that it's okay to be scared, and to try doing it anyway. You know, is it Carrie Fisher who says, feel the fear and do it anyway?
That feels like something she
right?
would say.
And I have an uncle who bought me this collage thing that he found like at an art fair one time, just traveling. He just saw it. It made him think of me. And it's a Georgia O'Keeffe quote. And it says, I've been absolutely terrified every moment of my life, and I've never let it stop me from doing a single thing I wanted to do. And I was like,
I love that.
Word. Like, if I was edgy Bevin, who didn't have fears, edgy Bevin is like, she has her septum pierced and the side of her head buzzed and several tattoos. That's edgy Bevin. Edgy Bevin would definitely have that quote tattooed.
Dang.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So that's like been a big, you know, something that I try to remember is that you're braver than you believe. And that's a Winnie the Pooh quote. And I just hit you with several quotable quotes.
That's really good.
And that's another coping mechanism of mine as I do scary things that I am not actually
Finding
sure I
quotes.
can do, is I find a quotable quote.
You walk into Hobby Lobby.
I do.
And
And
say,
I
"Give
live,
me a
laugh,
sign."
Jesus. And then I'm feeling better all of a sudden, you know?
Can I ask Molly a question? So,
Word.
as someone, you've mentioned that you have anxiety and maybe you're stuck between a couple places right now. What would help you? Like, would it help you to talk with somebody like us who are older? Like, are there
You're
things...
older.
I'm old. I'm 40 years old.
I'm not.
I will admit it. Okay, I'm 40.
I'm very
But
young.
would it help you to talk to someone like us? Like, what are things you've been thinking about that will help you break out and pursue the things that you know you really want to?
Really, I think that I just need to be around people more. Living alone has been great.
Okay.
But I don't have what you guys have.
Yeah.
I don't have someone who's just always around.
Right.
Yeah.
So a lot of things I internalize and I don't really even talk about very much until
Right.
maybe it boils over.
Right.
Like, for example, well, Jeremy, I think, has a skill when it comes to this. This happened maybe 6 months ago. No, it was happening during the last Art Love, so I guess August of last year. And I had come by his office to pick up a donation, and it's like he was like laser focused on all of my internal organs.
I remember this, yes.
And said, "This girl needs help."
He's an empath kind of guy in that way.
Yeah,
I can sense it.
Before, I think the day before that I had spoken to him, I visited poor Marilee Hall and got her donation. And because she reminded me of my granny.
Oh, no.
Who passed,
Granny.
Who passed in November of 2022.
Europe trip Granny.
Yes, Europe trip Granny. Wonderful woman.
Yes, God bless.
Woman Granny. Who I also still feel tremendous guilt towards.
Okay.
For people who do not know, the reason why I was able to go to school and only work like part-time, and at that, like, very few hours a week.
Yeah.
And like I had scholarships and things that paid for all of my school up until a certain point.
Sure.
But the reason why I could keep an apartment is because my family paid for it for me.
Yeah.
And it was through money that my granny received after her husband died.
Okay.
Because my grandpa worked at the plant in Kingston and had work-related cancer.
Okay.
So basically the government wrote her a blood money check.
Yeah.
And she put it towards my college education.
Look at me right now.
Yes.
That's good.
Let the guilt go. That was what
I'm trying.
I will guarantee this from...
I'm an Irish girl.
From my experience, there's no other place she would want that money
That's
to
true.
go.
Right.
Okay, Same thing with our grandma. If Bevin's grandma could write a check right now...
God, if she had
it
a
would
penny
go
to give.
her.
Aww.
Oh, yeah.
She doesn't.
She doesn't.
So
But,
we're all clear.
but that might be a first step is
Yes.
certain things you know are irrational.
Yeah.
I go to therapy, every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks. Even if I'm having the greatest day of my life, I'm going there and I'm going to talk about it.
Yeah.
If I'm having the worst day, I'm going to talk about it. And it's just a habit. And that's that, you're talking about that extra person.
Yeah.
I tell him my big goals I have for my career, and I tell him about the thing that bothers me from 20 years ago.
Right.
Yeah.
And we try to actually intersect them in a weird way.
Yeah.
And it's very helpful to just get it out of my brain so it's not... I'm a stewer. I don't actively say things that often. So I need to literally have an appointment.
Strong silent type.
Yeah, to say
will.
it. So things like
That's true.
your grandma's money, the grandma who loved you, you don't have guilt about her money with the Europe trip, do you?
There was a point, I kind of do because, leading up to the trip, I was like, wow, that's such an amazing experience. Right. Like, the people who are going on that are so lucky. And then suddenly I'm going and none of my friends can.
Right.
And it's like,
Okay.
I don't enjoy feeling the privilege from that.
Right.
Because
there are things to be grateful for,
Yeah.
not guilty about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But with Granny's money, they were able to pay my rent until I turned 25. Like
Wow.
that was the deal.
That's great.
Which the majority of people do not have that.
No.
And so
but it puts you in a position to, be able to do things that you might not otherwise be able to do. I think that's great.
And I am very grateful that she did that. Yeah. But at the same time, like, I've looked at myself and I've been like, you freaking squandered it.
Imposter.
You freaking idiot.
This is a thing called imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we all have it.
Yeah.
So.
Especially in academia.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
everybody does.
You mentioned panic attacks.
Yeah.
I don't know what flavor of panic attacks that you have.
Yeah.
But mine include talking to people who aren't there.
Okay. Okay.
Talking to myself. Talking very badly about myself. But sometimes to people who aren't there.
Okay.
And I had seen just like a picture of Granny, and it brought one on.
Ooh.
So I had a horrible panic attack that lasted like an hour, and I was just like talking to her, which I feel so sorry for my neighbors. Can you imagine hearing me?
They're like, I know she lives alone.
Who the fuck is she talking to? And it's just me going, I'm so sorry, I'm sorry. And so the next day, I went to talk to Marilee Hall.
And she was your grandma.
And she looked...
Granny.
She had, like, the same freaking haircut and everything.
Dang.
I was just like, Jesus Christ.
Yep.
And I feel terrible for doing this in front of her because she did not ask for this that day. But I started crying and I was like,
Thanks.
I'm sorry, I need to go, but you remind me a lot of my granny. And then she, like, she made me stay because she, like... kept adding to it. She talked about.
Did she give you a hug and stuff,
yes,
like a granny hug?
Thank you, Marilee. And then the day after that, I saw Jeremy, and I probably looked like I was on the wreck of the Medusa.
You were on edge, man.
Was it really that obvious?
Oh yeah.
Oh my god!
Didn't I just make you sit down and talk to me?
Yes.
Were you just
instantly?
haggard and unbathed, or what?
Everything.
Maybe.
I think.
You just said something. I was almost ready to go. I was in your doorway, and you said something, and I just started crying. It wasn't even the classic, "Are you okay?"
Right.
It was just something.
Yeah.
But what was I gonna say?
Were you just gonna start crying?
No.
Okay.
You were vibrating that day. That's what it was.
Damn.
And I can sense how your emotions were manifesting into physical things.
Really?
Absolutely. So I was just, I noticed it right away.
This man has never even had me in class before.
No. I noticed it right away, and we did our first conversation like we planned to. And I'm just observing you the whole time, and I can just tell.
Wow.
And I was assuming it was maybe something work-related, some work stress. I'm a good person to talk to about work stress because I put myself through a lot of work stress that's not necessary.
Yeah.
And that's why I wanted to hear what was on your mind.
Yeah. But it was granny related.
Yeah.
And it was granny related, but he just split me open until I was just raw in his office, and I just threw up words at him. But I basically explained to him that I was feeling pretty lonely because my job is work from home, and at the time I was just home all the time.
Yeah, it's not good for us.
The majority of my Cookville friends had moved away.
Right.
I just felt I was very lonely, but then also I'm 25 now, and I've reached total financial independence for the first time in my life. And, I am becoming my own person, but at the same time, I've always had this stupid hang-up about, where I am in my life right now.
Yeah.
And it's Molly, you're 25
Join
years
the
old.
club.
You should have a husband and a child by now.
We got married when I was 31.
And that's the way to do it.
Okay?
Yeah.
Wait for the right thing.
I was
I will.
26,
Good.
I guess, yeah.
My Capricorn Venus will not allow me to get with the wrong dude.
A Capricorn Venus.
Yeah. Basically, Capricorn is a very...
I'm a Capricorn.
...business-minded sign. You're realistic.
Sure. I
You're
hate
practical.
business, though.
I'm very practical, too.
Good.
I'm a Cancer.
Ooh. That's
Are
why
we
you're
supposed to
so
be married?
Emotionally
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
intuitive.
Yeah.
But yeah, I basically just was like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing right now.
Mm-hmm.
And then Jeremy said, here's your 3-year plan.
Here you go. Let's work through this,
And
lady.
he was like, you need to give more of yourself to this job because I'm sure that your boss would like want you around more.
Mm-hmm.
And they all did.
Mm-hmm.
And I started going into the office 2 days a week because of that.
Love that.
And he was like, you know, I know that you think that you need to be in this specific place right now, but that's not true. You're not behind some unseen
Some imaginary
metric.
race, yeah.
Yeah, and like you're doing fine. Like stay here for a second and figure out what you want to do. And I was like, damn, you're right.
You right.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jeremy.
You're right.
You're welcome. I gave up what I thought was the dream at 27, quit it all, and moved to Texas. And then I didn't realize what my dream really was.
Me.
Dang.
Being married to me.
Also-
And this dream is more important than my career dreams. The career is important for other things, but there are bigger things in life.
Bevan, I hope that you realize that when you are not even in the room, he talks about
He
you
does.
like you are the best thing in his life.
He does. He does. I hear that from students pretty regularly. They
That's
sort of
pretty great.
like to point that out. Yeah. We done pretty good. My grandma, who would give me her last cent if she had one, she is in a nursing home with some pretty good dementia. But one thing that she is always able to recognize, like names are tough, you know, and that sort of thing. And she like goes through periods where she thinks my parents have twin babies again.
Okay.
But if you tell her, you know, oh yeah, Bevin, and then she's kind of stops and she's thinking, does she know that name? And then if you say true love, your true loves, and she, oh, true love, yes, my true love. That's the thing she knows, right? Like till the cows come home. And it's because when Jeremy and I first met, and I was telling her about this guy I had met, and he was going to come to Thanksgiving. He came to Thanksgiving with my entire family, like just months after we met. And it was quite the introduction.
That's awesome.
But she started calling him how's true love? You know, tell me about your true love. And I hadn't told her that he was my true love, right?
Yeah.
But grandmas know stuff. And so that's just what she immediately said. And so now she may not know either of our names from any other word in the English language, but true loves, and she'll know, yeah, she made me this blanket. I crocheted her a blanket that's on her wheelchair. And he can draw anything. She's got all these little Post-it notes up of like doodles he's made while we're sitting there that she thinks like belong in the Louvre, right?
That's
It's like
really
it's
cool.
a terrible drawing of a flower. And it says like God loves grandma across the top or whatever.
That's awesome.
And so that's, to her, that's her true loves. And that's fine. If that's all she remembers, then that makes me perfectly happy. I think that's
It's
fine.
a great thing to remember.
Yeah, it's a good one.
That's
So
cool.
we done pretty good.
You mentioned earlier that you are your dad.
Yeah.
Here's an example as to like how much I look like my father.
Okay.
I had a step great grandmother
Okay.
named Fannie Lou.
Oh my, that's a good name.
Yeah, she was cool, and she had Alzheimer's.
Okay.
And the entire time that I was alive, she had it. So,
Okay.
and I think she passed when I was maybe 10.
Okay.
Or 12. I don't know. I don't remember anymore. But she never knew my name because
Does she think you were your dad?
she would always call me Ted.
Molly, no!
But I mean, to her point, I was rocking a bowl cut
You had a bowl cut, I was about to
for
say.
years and years.
This is in the little Lord Fauntleroy
Yeah.
portion of your life.
I was the little boy on a fancy cookie box.
I love it so much.
Here's the thing. The last time that I saw her before
Yeah.
she passed away, she looked at me and she said, "You must be Molly." I said, "Yeah."
Isn't that weird? Oh my god, age and memory is so weird. It's been
My
fascinating.
favorite memory of her, do you remember in like 2005 when the singing cards
Yeah,
first came out
heck
as,
yeah.
like, really popular?
All right.
we came up for her birthday. She was like 92, and Granny got her one. And she was holding it, and she was opening it. She goes, "This better not be one of those singing cards." And Granny just goes,
"Happy birthday!"
And then later, we were having steaks for dinner, and Fannie Lou choked on her steak, but Granny was a trained nurse, and she saved her with the Heimlich maneuver.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
The Adventures of Fannie and Granny.
Yeah.
I love it.
My granny had a name that rhymed.
What is it?
Mary Perry.
Oh, that is...
So
what's her middle name?
She's kind of like a little pixie woman.
Did she have a middle name?
She hated her middle name. It was Pauline.
Mary Pauline Perry.
Her maiden name is Mary Pauline Schrock.
Schrock?
Which Schrock is a German name for small or jumps high.
How high can you jump?
Not high.
Oh, come on.
Small.
Whatever.
Well,
that's good.
I look identical to my mother.
Yeah, he does.
I
does.
Look nothing like my father physically. No. We have the same. He would sit here the same way.
They have the same like affect and mannerism.
Yeah, like we're very similar, but you can face swap me and my mom, and they look pretty darn close. It's one of my favorite photos.
I have one on my phone.
Yeah, face swap. It just looks like I have makeup on. Yeah.
I don't think that. Like, I have a brother, and I don't think either of us necessarily favor each other or our parents, like, physically all that much. But the Geico commercials of You're Becoming Your Parents, are you familiar with those? They're all about me and my dad. Every single one of them is just me and Bruce. I do stuff all the time, and Jeremy's just like, Jesus, okay, Bruce.
Yeah. I love those commercials.
They're all me.
The way they brew their coffee, the way they drink their coffee, the way they exhale with their coffee.
It's something about when I drink my coffee in the morning and I do like a...
It's exactly like her father.
He's
I have started to realize that whenever I clear my throat, I sound like my mom, who sounds like my grandmother. And how she would do it.
See, I sneeze like my dad.
Jeremy made fun of me once because I scratched my nose, which apparently you're not supposed to do, and he said that Bevin does that all the time.
I don't remember this.
Oh, I do.
How did I scratch
it for me, or reenact it for me?
Like I'm picking boogers, or
I think I was like doing that or something.
Oh yeah.
What is it not ladylike enough for you or something?
Sorry, my nose is itchy, and you said Bevin does that all the time.
I love it.
Interesting.
Yes.
Do I?
Yeah, I guess you do.
I'm not so sure about
that. You are a redheaded man with glasses. Therefore, you remind me of my friend Isaac Clark.
Okay.
You don't know him, but he is a fan of the pod. And he had a question.
Great. Oh my gosh.
From our social media.
Wow.
He wanted to know what your favorite Blink-182 album is.
Wow.
Oh my god. Album?
Yeah. So I know, my favorite album is Take Off Your Pants and Jacket.
Okay.
It's a good one. It's a deeper, a little more emo.
It's a solid choice.
It's not as funny. Like, there's some funny stuff on it, but it's a little more serious, more about the divorces they went through. That fits, not, my parents didn't have a divorce, but, like, it fits more of my soul.
I like Take Off Your Pants and Jacket, but Enema of the State.
I mean, it's a classic.
You're going to not pick Enema of the State?
If I'm going to put one on right now, and we're going to go to a deserted island, that's the one I'm playing.
I get it.
It just...
No, Enema of the State.
Is it that kind of, like, emo punk where it's, like, borderline ska in parts because they're, like, trying to be fun with it?
It's like... It's when... Okay, so they released... It's the album they released before the self-title, which I hate.
Okay.
I hate their self-title album. And everything that comes after Take Off Your Pants and Jacket. Yeah, I don't like anything that comes out after Take Off Your Pants and Jacket. I'll just say it.
Also, their latest album is fantastic.
Well, I don't really listen to that, so okay. I'm stuck in...
Listen to it, Isaac.
A certain way. Okay. It's around the time that Tom started doing Angels and Airwaves, and so some of it is just a little whiny emo. It gets a little bit away from sort of the bubblegum pop punk of earlier albums.
I'm not a
But it's still very good. I mean, I love Take Off Your Pants and Jacket. I just feel like Enema of the State has to be in the running here.
Okay. This is interesting.
Yeah. So this would be another separate episode. Probably it could be. We could keep going.
We went and saw Blink when they were in Nashville, and Tom was back with them.
On Instagram.
Oh my god!
I had a lip ring.
Listen, when I was an early teen, I wasn't allowed to go to Warped Tour or a Blink-182 concert when they went to Dallas and stuff. Like I wasn't allowed, but my brother went to all of those things, and so now that I'm like an adult and no one can stop me, we're like going back around and seeing those bands that I would have been able to see as a teenager.
I saw this video the other day, and it was just really funny. I think it was happening in maybe like 98 or 99, and it was the Chargers football boot camp. And right next door to it was like one of the early Warped Tours.
Ooh.
And all of these NFL players were just like, what is
this sound? What is going on over there?
And they're like, it's something called Warped Tour.
See, all of my friends went to Warped Tour.
I've been to Warped
and
Tour
Austin City Limits and everything. And South by Southwest or whatever. And I wasn't allowed to go. I was just a little too young to go do stuff like that.
I think a couple of my friends might have gone in like 2011, 2012.
It was everything to my whole group of friends for many years.
That was when oh gosh, I shouldn't even be giving examples of bands. I wouldn't even.
You don't even know. There's no way you're worse than I am.
Don't do it, Molly. Because I'm
Just
a band
say it.
snob.
He is. He is.
Well,
he will make you feel bad about yourself.
In my opinion, the bands that were playing were not some of the best. And I think that might be why the Warped Tour does not exist anymore.
It was 2012.
Yes.
Music has died by then.
It's sort of, music was done being made by then. I don't think they've made any music since 2012 for sure.
Yeah, not any
I
good
still
music.
listen almost exclusively to the music I loved when I was 13 to 16 years old.
Dang.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Do you do Spotify?
No.
You should, man.
Yeah.
So you can do that rap
Listen,
thing.
I don't.
No.
I have Pandora, and my students have dragged me for this before.
Okay.
But I've spent a lot of time carefully developing these Pandora stations, and the reason I like it is because I don't have to craft it. I don't want to go through and make an 8-hour long playlist. I don't want to be responsible for that. I want to tell Pandora, hey, I like Emmylou Harris, and then it spits out a never-ending playlist at me. That's what I want.
All right, honey.
Yeah, it says, okay, here's some things you're going to like.
Let me see.
But no, I don't Spotify.
I Spotify incorrectly.
Okay.
I just add things that I like to one giant playlist.
Sure.
And that playlist is called Bangers.
Love that.
That playlist is 118 hours and 29 minutes long.
No.
118?
Yeah.
I'm just not interested. I also have Apple Music.
Okay.
Where if I want to listen to a specific album, I go onto Apple Music and I look it up and you can just listen to a specific album. But when Spotify first came out and you had to pay money for it, I was like, nah. And then I just never did it.
It's worth it to me.
No.
I bought Apple Music a couple, maybe last year because I was tired of Neil Young not being on there.
Okay.
And it was fine.
It's fine. I don't care. I think part of it is I want to put out as little effort as possible into listening to music. I really am not. I'm the
opposite.
I'm the opposite of a music snob. I don't really care. I'll put on a radio station. Don't really even care what's playing. Annoying commercials. Don't really care. I just am not I'm not interested in doing the work to figure it out.
Well, Jeremy, I want to say that you have a very specific relationship to music in that you were once in a punk band.
He was in a band. He was in a band.
What
a few
were
different
they
punk
called?
bands.
Oh, God.
So the main two were the first one, which is a legendary band
Dumpster Rat.
in the Fairfield, Ohio area, is
Electric Sheep.
the Midwest Ballers. Okay, and then the second band I was in during college was called The Perks, and we would brew coffee on stage.
Damn.
And hand out styrofoam cups of coffee.
What was the messaging behind that?
I think it was community.
Right.
That worked together.
Right.
it wasn't an angry band. The Midwest Ballers, we were very angry and angsty, and
as any good teenage band should be.
Yes, but then my slightly older band, no, we wanted to have community for sure.
That's cool. So recently I was rewatching the documentary on HBO Max, I believe, about Woodstock 99.
We watched that.
I love 1999.
Were any of those bands hitting it for you?
Oh, yeah. I mean, Limp Bizkit.
Yeah.
Oh, that still
Did
hits
it all
now.
for the nookie. Ugh. The nookie. Ugh. So you can take that cookie.
And stick it up, yeah.
Yeah.
Stick it up, yeah.
Yeah.
So that, Rage Against the Machine.
Jewel played.
Red Hot Chili
listen,
Peppers.
Jewel changed my life.
Artists.
Jewel changed my life.
Yeah.
I had Jewel sheet music. I learned how to play a couple of her songs on piano.
Did you try and, have a little snaggletooth like her?
I do have a snaggletooth.
Sure.
You're basically Jewel.
She's on Snaggletooth Mount Rushmore. She's one of my idols.
Yeah.
I was obsessed with Jewel as a young person.
It was Jewel, Alanis Morissette,
who I also love. We saw Alanis when she was in Nashville.
Harvey or
I don't remember.
I don't know.
What was the All I Want to Do Is Have Some Fun lady?
Sheryl Crow.
Sheryl Crow, she was there.
Oh my God.
Those were the three.
Yep.
That was out of
I knew a
the
musician.
100 artists there.
I don't really
There
care
were
about
three
Sheryl
female
Crow, but
artists.
Alanis Morissette and Jewel, foundational.
That's why they created Lilith Fair, and it was a Woodstock for women. Do you know about
hear
this? Literally.
Do you hear
Look
this,
it up.
man?
Go have your own.
Go do girl music.
Yes.
We do boy music.
Go do girl music in the woods. We have a fucking Air Force base.
This is boy music
We're
for
gonna go
boys.
die on the
We're gonna set the
asphalt
thing on fire
and throw poop water
and riot.
everywhere.
It was unfortunate that the Woodstock 99...
Flea's gonna be naked the whole time.
He was. His member was just flinging around. What the heck?
Why?
I don't know.
Wow. I mean, I'm
was the
for
90s.
it, really, but it was a little much.
If he can stay up there.
Yeah.
Now, if he was like the people who were just out in
Sure.
this massive crowd,
That's
who
too
were just
much.
naked
It's
the
too
whole
much.
event,
It's too much.
that was a lot.
And now Limp Bizkit is kind of back.
Bizkit?
Sorry. Limp Bizkit is back. And they're playing around the world now. The 90s resurgence has happened, so Creed
we are
is
doing
back.
it. That's right.
Fully back.
Creed is back, baby.
And sounding good, I think.
People have been passing around that video of them singing at the Super Bowl.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And he's
Beautiful.
wearing a Dallas Cowboys
It's so good.
jersey.
I love him.
Speaking of Limp Bizkit, I think the
Dot,
music
dot, dot.
video for
That's your next
Nookie-
that's your next bumper sticker. Speaking of Limp Bizkit, ...
I think that the music video for Nookie
Yeah.
takes place on top of the World Trade Center.
It does, yes. And that was the last time a video
That's
was
good.
ever filmed up there.
You know?
So, yeah.
Hashtag never forget.
Uh-oh.
I'm sorry, I just thought that was
Uh-oh. Sensitive topic.
I'm talking about Limp Bizkit.
I appreciate Limp Bizkit for the guitar player named Wes Borland.
Is that
I don't
the
know if
guy in
Isaac is
Corpse
familiar. He has all the weird costumes.
Al
and the
Borland?
paint. No, that's different. That's from Home Improvement. Oh. But they might be related in some way.
They should be.
But I like Wes Borland with the creativity, the costumes, the
Okay.
contacts. Lots of weird stuff. I like it. And it creates a good juxtaposition with how dumb Fred Durst is.
Yeah, he's a total douchebag.
You can't have a bunch of Fred Durst on the stage. You need the opposite to balance it out.
Yeah.
It's just too much.
Yeah.
He is really stupid.
Yeah. He's just textbook douchebag kind
Oh,
of.
yeah.
I mean, you know.
Very purposely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It fills a role.
He was wearing head to toe DC.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
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 That was a thing for a while.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
What
it
were
was.
your go-to outfits in 1999?
Okay.
Okay, how old was I in 99? I was in 5th grade.
Ooh.
I can go first while you think.
Okay.
So I swear this was when hoodies first came out. Okay? So I had let's look up the encyclopedia.
There's no way that's
forget
true. Oh, yeah.
But hoodies,
Yeah.
everyone was wearing them.
There's no
okay?
way.
But so I had an Old Navy hoodie that was navy blue.
Did it say Old Navy on it really big?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
With an orange stripe on the side. I
Oh.
had exact matching navy cargos that were like 5 inches too long, and they're all shredded to hell.
Yeah.
And then I had the biggest, chunkiest skater shoes.
Yeah.
Like they're super wide and big clown shoes.
Yeah.
But you didn't skate.
I did not skate because I
Did you ever have any soap shoes?
I did not have soap shoes that you could grind with.
Dang.
Blaze did. My brother did. My brother
And I had very spiky hair, like straight up gel hairspray, as high as you can get. And then under it would probably be a bowling shirt, like that has like the little buttons and the stripes.
That goes hard.
With a name.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That was an everyday look for me.
Dang.
Okay, my most prized item of clothing in the 5th grade were a pair of Mud brand bell-bottom jeans.
Yeah.
And I want to say they were like the first pants I owned that were like juniors sizes as opposed to girls sizes.
So I guess you were shopping at Kohl's.
Something like
I
that,
associate
probably.
Mud with
Yeah,
Kohl's, 'cause
pennies,
that's where I would get all
Mervyn's,
of my preteen outfits.
something like that.
Pam Butler shop at
Pam,
Kohl's.
yeah, oh yeah,
Got that Kohl's
and
cash.
they were, but they were so belled, right? They were super flare, mega flare, and the bottom is just ripped to shreds, right? Because they're too long, and you're walking all over them all the time, and they were kind of a light wash, and I just remember feeling really cool in them, and I think I had several T-shirts that were like off-brand. Paul Frank with the chimp on them. I got several tees of that variety. You know, I was in variety, yeah. And I think I was wearing a lot of sweater vests in '99.
Ooh,
I was doing kind of a lot of a sweater vest sort of thing.
Like, bead necklaces, bead jewelry.
Yeah, power beads. Yeah, power beads were sweet. Did a lot of that. I had a lot of like the biggest, chunkiest. Yeah, I had a lot of the biggest, chunkiest shoes imaginable. Skechers, it's the S, like a big platform shoe, chunky. Those like I never had any actual Doc Martens, but the knockoff sandals.
You should correct that.
That had. I don't know. I don't feel right about it anymore.
Wow.
But at the time, the bigger and chunkier and taller the shoes, the better. Yeah, and my hair was just very long. Like, I had hair, like, down past my waist most of my life.
Dang.
Yeah, just long.
Whoa.
Yeah. I was also in 5th grade in 1999.
No, you were not. No, you were not. No, you were not. You were about to graduate high school.
Old!
Yeah, he is.
Wise.
Yeah, wise.
No.
I think you're both very wise.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but
Thank
he's
you.
old.
You're
wise
giving
for
me
our
very
age.
wise looks right now. Well, thank you for coming on the show.
This has been a wild ride, Molly.
Have you liked it? Have
Yeah.
you read it?
Yeah. I've loved it.
Was it everything you thought it would be?
It really was.
I think so. I think you should have us back
Okay.
in the future.
Yeah.
I would love that.
You know,
We could talk about all kinds of other things.
Yeah.
Fashion, music, travel, art,
Yes.
life
being our
hacking.
dads,
Life hacking.
Mm-hmm.
Coles.
Next time you come on, we can talk about the joys of home ownership.
Ooh, love
Yeah.
talking about
we
the
could explain
homestead.
that for young people.
I love to talk about the homestead.
Yeah.
Mowing.
Homesteader Bevin.
Mowing will change your life. I'm getting chickens this summer. You can call me back and ask me about chickens.
You need to get a gingham dress and have Jeremy film you
Like Dorothy?
running down the hill like
Oh,
at the
okay.
start of,
Yeah, I see what we're doing here.
that show.
Little House on the Prairie?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I could do that.
Yeah.
We'll talk about the house.
Yeah, and a whole Frederick Froebel episode,
God.
a Blink-182 episode. Bring Isaac in.
We
Me
can
and
definitely
Isaac.
do a Blink-182 episode.
Get Isaac on the couch. Me and Isaac. Bevin
Yeah.
doesn't need to be there.
Yes, I'm there too.
If Isaac was here right now, you would literally just be like looking in a mirror at yourself.
Okay.
Is it because all redheads look kind of the same?
Oh,
Because
yeah.
I thought you were
Damn,
going to say,
okay.
I thought you were going to
She
throw
said it, not
one of
me.
a handful of things at him that he hears on the regular,
Regular.
which is that he looks like Ed Sheeran,
Oh, yeah.
You don't.
the one guy on Modern Family.
Yes.
I don't know. who
Somebody
that is.
approached me
With
in
the
a
red hair.
subway about me looking like... They thought I was the guy from Modern Family.
Or Mythbusters.
Mythbusters, who is like 60 years old.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Much older.
But he
than
gets
and he's
that.
like blonde red now.
Well, because he's old.
Yeah.
But also, people will just be like, you look just like my roommate. And Jeremy's like, oh, did he have red hair? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, is he also 40? Oh, no, he's 23.
Yeah, but they have red hair. So
Okay.
it's one of those. Yeah.
Or the big one that I get is there is a manager at the Walgreens by campus.
That is true.
That has red hair. He doesn't have glasses, though, but he has red hair. He's a nice guy. And I will get approached once a month about where things are in Walgreens. And I'll be like, I don't work here.
Sorry.
And they're very confused.
Yeah. This has the vibe
and they
of
don't
like
believe
a Walgreens
me.
manager.
They don't believe that I don't work there. I'm like, I swear I don't work here.
You do go to Walgreens a lot, though. You could work there.
I should just work there over the summer. I mean, I'm there enough.
Your regular stomping grounds.
It is. Yeah. You gotta go there and you get a Coke Zero when it's that midday hump.
Oh, okay.
Preferably you get a tall boy can Coke Zero versus a bottle.
They have tall.
Don't let him start talking about tall boys,
because they're so much colder than the bottles.
Are you
the bottles
put
are
it in like a paper bag?
You don't need to. You don't need to.
He loves a Diet Coke tall boy, dude.
And then you get a big old beef jerky and a Coke Zero tall boy, and you are living life.
I like to get me like a little candy treat at Walgreens.
See, I don't go candy. I'm a meat guy.
Who is the guy who plays the boyfriend in Juno and
Michael Cera?
That's very Michael Cera coded of you.
Okay.
Yeah.
To buy the
Yes. Yes. I think so. Yes.
It's just what I like.
He's doing like a super bad.
That's advice to people
He's
your
doing
age.
a McLovin there.
Do what you're like. Okay, if you like a Coke Zero tall boy, get it. Don't be like, oh, none of the cool people drink that. Drink the thing that you like. Like, enjoy it.
Who's getting bullied for their preference of tall boys?
Well, I can't wear this. I can't eat that because the influencers don't do it. I'm a young person.
Oh my God, honey.
Young people, just consume what you want to. Don't be influenced, okay?
The influencers TM.
What's a TM?
Trademark.
Oh.
We're influencers now because this will go out and
it's gonna be.
This is viral. It's a meme
of my amassed audience of roughly around 54 people.
Wow, is that your audience? Is that your streaming Wrapped? Your Spotify Wrapped?
Because I do this through Spotify podcasts.
Okay.
Which is like a whole separate thing.
Yeah.
And it gives you all your data.
Wow.
All that stuff. So.
Yeah, this one's gonna go viral.
Well, Limp Biscuit, listens will go up. Spins is what the young people call it, I think. Old Navy hoodies. Because people will listen to this and be like, oh, yeah, we should listen to Limp Bizkit.
We should listen to Limp Bizkit.
That's cool.
Oh my God, I should study medieval art.
Yeah.
Wow,
the
cool.
Old Navy hoodies. It reminded me, I was listening to this other podcast, and this guy was talking about how he never got to have, like, name brand clothing growing up very often.
Yeah.
And his mom bought him this Gap hoodie.
Ooh.
And he gets on the school bus, and his bully says, you know what Gap stands for? Gay-ass people.
Ruined it.
Sick burn.
I remember people
That's
saying that in
a sick burn.
school.
That's so rude.
Gay ass people.
Dang.
Just ruined it.
That'll cut them down,
So
man.
Just like turned it inside
Just
out
never
for the
wear
rest
it
of the
again.
day.
What happened to your Gap hoodie? I thought you loved it.
It's actually PAG.
Yeah, you made me gay.
But now gay people are the coolest people.
That's true.
And are awesome.
So you would just be like, yeah?
Yeah, I am.
And?
Duh.
No doy. You can edit out that last no doy, right?
This is officially the longest podcast that I've recorded.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Is it midnight?
I think that if I am judging by past numbers correctly, we are in the 2.5 hour range.
Okay.
And I'm okay with that.
Okay.
Because I like talking to you guys.
Okay, me too.
And I'm so glad that you came over.
We'll do some more. Whenever this is your best rated one, we'll do some more.
Guys, get those views up. Get those clicks up.
You bet. Spins.
Jeremy. No.
Okay.
I've never heard that.
That's the
once
title
in
of
my life.
this episode. Is just called Spins.
Get those spins
Those
up.
spins. Or Wes Borland. Is he related to Al Borland?
You've got some options. There's options there.
Have you guys listened to any of the other episodes?
Don't listen to
I
podcasts.
have
I just go
gotta be
on them.
the Rebecca and Dalton one.
Okay.
I am huge fans of both of them.
Yeah.
So,
I can't listen to something when there's not a visual involved.
Oh, okay.
So, I've tried to listen to some podcasts.
What if for this one,
I just can't.
I just have a cycling animation of, like, a little dude dancing.
That would maybe help. That would help. Is it the naked baby thing? Do you remember when that was?
I could do that.
Like that naked baby dancing?
Put Fred Durst on there.
No. That's
And
not,
Nookie.
not naked.
Ugh.
It's good. I'd see him in a heartbeat.
Great.
Well, I'm gonna sign off now.
At that.
Okay.
We'll leave it there.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Is there anything you want to plug?
I will plug.
Art history.
Okay, word.
I will plug. You need to come see me again sometime soon.
But don't cry at him again.
You don't have to cry. If you do, it's okay. But let's talk about work stuff. Let's talk about life.
Yeah.
You know.
I can do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
You can be my mentor.
I would love to be. And I worked on some of your homework last night for our book project that we're working on.
Oh.
So I've had to delay that because of all the crap we're doing at work, but I started it up again.
It's, truth be told, it's been kind of nice to have a break because I've been gearing up for the first punk rock flea market of the year.
Oh my god.
On 420.
Ooh.
And that's Knoxville?
Blaze it. Murfreesboro.
Murfreesboro, okay.
Very good, very good.
You
very
guys should
good.
totally come to one.
I like it. We should.
What happens at a punk rock flea market?
It's from 12 p.m. to 10 p.m.
Oh my god.
It is 10 straight hours of live punk bands.
Cool.
Surrounded by like 120 plus vendors of like all kinds of different stuff. And they have food trucks and it's huge.
Cool.
Like, everyone really looks forward to them.
That does sound fun.
And honestly, the local talent that they find is really good.
Cool. All the
and
bands
you
are
get
local?
a free beer with a ticket, which really isn't free, but it's free
Right,
beer.
'cause you bought it.
Maybe they'll give you a Coke Zero Tall Boy.
I would be in heaven.
I would rather have a
no
Coke
shame.
Zero Tall Boy than a beer.
I'd love to be sponsored by it.
Coke
It kinda
Zero
goes
Tall Boy.
hard.
It's delicious, and it's so like cold because it's in the can.
Can I, Molly, this is so unrelated to the podcast, is
Yeah.
that I had to pick up something at Staples, and he was like, I'm going to go to the Dollar Tree and get a drink. And I was like, do you want to go to Dollar Tree? Or like Walgreens is right there or whatever. And he was like, yeah, but Dollar Tree has the Coke Zero Tall Boys. He this just literally on our way here today. This happened. Okay. He's like, that's what I've been doing. I've been hitting the Dollar Tree for those tall boys. I'm like, Jesus
It was
Christ.
only $1.25.
Dang, that's value.
Yeah, buy a 20-ounce bottle. It's like $2.50 now or more. Get a tall boy.
Dang.
I'm getting a divorce.
You heard it here first.
That's a good title to this episode too. I'm getting a divorce.
Anyway.
Well, again, thank you for coming
Once
on.
again, thank you. Once again, we'll
Once
sign
again.
off.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. You guys are wonderful people.
Thank you.
And
You're
this
the bomb.
community is very fortunate to have you.
Well, thank you.
so much.
Same to you,
Oh, thanks.
m'lady.
Tip my fedora. Well,
See you later.
Bye.
bye.